Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 281. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge on the comic forums, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim. We are now the official superhero zoning commission, so says the sensei of the whatnot, Segulin, and the Duke of you-know.
How's it going, eh?
On this episode, we're talking Teen Titans number 2, Supergirl number 2, Action Comics number 3 we couldn't avoid, All-Star Western number 2. So we just got the really packed episode that we're going to be talking about. Did I miss anything? I think that was it, and some listener voicemails and some great commentary from you guys. So I want to thank everyone for joining us for this episode. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network and the League of Comic Book Podcasts. Sponsoring us this episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com, Jim, they're offering the second Flash Omnibus by Jeff Johns. This collects issues 177 to 200, and DC First Flash Superman number 1. An old friend of Wally West becomes the portal to another universe, and Gorilla Grodd goes wild in Keystone City. Plus, don't miss the Fastest Man Alive's clashes with members of his infamous Rogues Gallery, including Captain Cold, the Trickster, the Pied Piper, and more. Regularly $75, 40% off, only $45. And if you didn't pick up the original Flash Omnibus by Jeff Johns, they have that available as well. So you can get Volume 1 and Volume 2 at $45 each. So it's kind of cool if you are into like checking out his run, and this is a great chance to get all of it in one handy-dandy volume. And I want to thank DCBService.com for continuing to support our show and for being a digital source. If you go, they got MyDigitalComics.com, also Comixology, directly from their site. So please make sure to do your purchases there to support them for supporting our podcast. Over at InStockTrades.com, check out the Absolute Sandman hardcover Volume 5. This collects the Sandman Endless Nights, Dream Hunters, which is both the prose and the comics adaptation, and the hard-to-find Sandman Midnight Theater featuring Wesley Dodds. And this is 512 pages, $99 regularly, $99.99 regularly, I should say, 40% off, only $59.99 from InStockTrades.com. Great news is, orders of $50 or more give you free shipping, so you get that, baby. You got free shipping. So, Absolute Sandman Volume 5. I'm a big fan of the Sandman series, and those Absolute volumes are absolutely tremendously gorgeous. So, make sure to check that out if you haven't. I want to thank InStockTrades.com for supporting our show as well. James, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on the show. So if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Jim, I was wondering, if there's a pre-existing basement, can you put a bat cave... Wait, we'll save that conversation for later. Let's talk some comics.
Through the magic alchemy of nature's most awesome sources of energy, Ray Palmer, atomic physicist, becomes the atom.
Jim, I got a couple quick things I want to shout out. First of all, I want to shout out Feedback Magazine. This is a brand new magazine. It's at www.feedback-magazine.com. No spaces or anything. And I got to see a preview copy of this, and there was a really cool interview with Jeff Lemire that stood out for me. But there's just a variety of different comic book and just geek culture-related articles in there that range from older material to newer material, so there's something in there for everybody. It's a digital magazine. It's brand new. The website is blog-based, so there's a ton of, just a wealth of information from all of geek culture right on this website. So I encourage you to go to the website, check it out. If you like the whole format and feedback, the whole format of the Feedback website, check out the magazine because it's really cool. And I want to thank, we had a friend of the show who gave me a really cool preview copy of it, and I had a chance to check it out, and I really enjoyed the magazine, so it was enough that I wanted to make sure to shout it out on the show. I also want to shout out colorist and friend of the show, David Barron, is a part of this thing called Movember. And what it is it's this theme that all through November you don't shave your mustache, and people donate to you for cancer awareness and for overall health awareness. As you know, my mom, I've mentioned on the show multiple times, for the last almost 6 years now, has been fighting breast cancer. And anytime that somebody's doing something cancer related about cancer research, this is really what this is all about, cancer research. Let's see what we can start doing to better the quality of life for people who are facing this. I'm behind these causes, and I thought it was really cool. I donated right away. I've got a link on our website, on our Facebook page, Google+, Twitter. I also did it in the show notes. I believe in this cause. I donated right away. I'm not doing that to pat myself on the back. It's more so saying I'm shouting this out on the show because I believe in it enough to support it myself. So I'm asking you to consider just, hey, whatever you can afford, a few bucks or something like that, if you're able to. Cancer is something that is just horrible that we as a society have to continue dealing with, worrying about, seeing family members, friends go through, and anything we can do to help it out. I think it's really cool. And I love that a comic creator is stepping up and like the whole mustache. It's fun. I think it's great that this is a fun thing towards doing something better for others, trying to just increase awareness and making us all aware of, just taking better care of ourselves and hopefully doing some research towards helping to improve the quality of life through this. I just think it was kind of cool, so I wanted to shout it out. Kind of a cool way to start out the show. Anyway,
Definitely.
Going from that to All-Star Western. I'm ready to shoot up cancer. And this is the book for it. I've talked on the show many times my love for Jonah Hex. This is Justin Gray, Jimmy Palmiotti writers, Maury Tott artist and cover, Gabriel Bautista is the colorist, Rob Lay letterer, Kate Stewart assistant editor, Jovi Cavalieri editor, and I'm sorry for any name butchery because I gotta tell you, as a fan of Jonah Hex, see, this is one, it was funny when the New 52 was announced and they announced, I was like, where's Jonah? That's one of those books that I was looking for. And when they announced All-Star Western, they had me at the creative team. Once I knew that Gray and Palmiotti were on board again, I'm like, okay, we're good to go. Everything's great. And I'm going to say one other thing, though. They kicked it up to 11. I didn't think it was possible for it to be better than the previous Jonah Hex series. They've made a perfect series better.
Amen. And it's funny because the official title is All-Star Western, but I keep calling it Jonah Hex title just because I'm so in sync with it. I'm so used to saying that, and he's got the lead story, but I do like the backup feature. I do like the second story on there. I'm enjoying that it's not just the one character, but we're going to get some other Western stories coming out of this, and looking forward to seeing those. Especially the initial story arc that kicks off. It has that zombie feel, which I always dig those stories. So this was something that just firing on all cylinders for me, and I'm really, really happy with what I'm getting.
Jim, as we kick into this story, the one thing I really loved about this is that it so totally pulled in the events of Gates of Gotham. It didn't ignore Gotham's history, and this is where continuity, somewhere continuity became like this weird bad word. This is where continuity works. It's when you've got a history of a city, and there's a real cool way to bring in a different character to explore it. And that's what we're doing here with Jonah Hex. Gotham, we know, you got Amadeus Arkham, you've got this whole crime Bible thing going on, you've got the different families that run Gotham. There's corruption in this place. We've seen it so many times. And to see it play out here where we've got our friend Jonah Hex dealing with it. I love this show. Here's one thing where I love the layout of this. That showdown at the House of Arkham with that just kind of like banner that was up there. I love the way that this book was laid out. We've talked a lot about the New 52, about how each book is having this really cool artistic kind of vibe and style that it's own. This series really had that. Whoever was behind the whole layout and look of this, I don't know how that works creative team-wise, who actually decides the end result of that. But what a brilliant execution here, because this book just looks special.
I tell you, it was funny. Brother Bill and I were talking because he's a big Jonah Hex fan when the first issue came out, and he was like, "Yeah, it was a good story, but there wasn't enough death and wasn't enough carnage for him." He kind of saw issue 1 as a kinder, gentler version of Jonah Hex, but when this one came out, I just got a text from him. Oh yeah.
Now, has he read Jonah Hex all along, or has this been something that he jumped on later? When did Jonah Hex enter into his radar?
I believe the Gray and Palmiotti series, the last run, was Jonah Hex. I don't think he did Jonah Hex before that. But, in our household, Westerns were like one of the king, stories. So we all gravitated towards any Western stories. The Eastwood spaghetti Westerns, even the modern Eastern thing, just any of that genre was something that drew all three of us in. So, I don't know how long he's been reading it, but I know it's definitely he has the full run of the last batch.
Do you think Jonah added the crazy to the Arkham family? Like, did things go a little off kilter? Because we know what today's Arkham looks like. The Arkham that we've currently got running Arkham Asylum. Is some of this due to Jonah? Because they've got Amadeus Arkham trying to psychoanalyze Jonah Hex. I mean, come on, really? Yeah. I like this though. You put these two people together, and this would make a great movie.
Oh, God, yes.
Because they're so different.
Oh, and, the thing is, you could actually take, this and throw this right in, make this the story arc without people knowing who Arkham is or about the gates of Gotham or anything like that, and it still would play out as a good story. This is great layout where there's a lot of back history that those of us who've read this before know this and say, oh, look at that, that's cool. But the new person walking into it gets a cool Western story, gets a cool action-adventure story. This is a great layout for a conversion from paper to physical.
Yeah, I agree. This honestly would work. You know how this would work in the way that the animated short worked? Remember that one that was on the direct-to-DVD release of Jonah Hex? I think this is just one of those where this is what a film should be with Jonah Hex. I hope they consider trying it again.
Yeah, I hope so too. Because, I think there was moments in that Jonah movie that we were both cheering and we were both high-fiving. And there were moments where like, really? Did you have to go with that? So there was a solid enough movie, and I think he's a solid enough character that I would imagine if they went and did the animated route with him, the animated route would do great. And then maybe when they see that, maybe they'd give a live action a second shot. But I think it's going to take a while because Hollywood itself is kind of very short-sighted. They don't look at the overall picture. Think about the Dolph Lundgren Punisher, how long it took for that to the Thomas Jane version. So there's going to be some years.
Well, okay, let me ask you that question. Do you think an animated Jonah would do well?
Yes.
And what makes you think that? Is it because it's a Western, or do you think it's the name? Do you think because I don't think the name branding is that well known.
What I think is anybody who was turned off by I'm talking comic book fans. Uh-huh. Any comic book fan who was turned off by the live action version, when they hear animated version, especially if they got the right person writing the script for that animated, they'll go, okay, this is going to be a real Jonah Hex. Let me take a look at this. And they'll get it a second shot. So I think an animated Jonah Hex story would do well just because of the comics fans would give it the shot, especially based on the creative team. But I also think if they marketed it well, they could pull in people who are fans of Westerns to see it as well, because the Western genre is still a very strong genre, in this country. So I think they could pull it in, but they'd have to work on the advertising. They'd have to, let people know about it.
I think if you adapt one of these stories from this book, you're right. You could appeal to and actually market in trailers to a straight Western audience. Yeah. And I agree with you. I actually, the more you're talking about that, I think that really becomes the responsibility of marketing, though. Where you have to sit there and say, okay, we're going to do this straight Western, and we're going to let the comic fans know that, hey, this is what we're doing, and it's going to be true to Jonah Hex. It's straight from the comic. We're going to do that. This direct-to-DVD release. But you're right. It does have an opportunity to be a breakthrough type of program where if you throw this thing out there as a, you're talking about these direct animated releases, yeah. Right? And brand it specifically to that type of audience. There's action sequences right in this. When they start getting attacked, I know I'm jumping to that, but they start getting ambushed. And, it was panel after panel of sheer unbridled carnage, where one of the things I love about Jonah is his rough. The fighting and combat is very rough. Jonah's like hurting afterwards. There's no two ways about it. Yes, he wins. Yes, he does the one-up, but he's slamming into floors. He's, shoving bodies. He's falling back. Crunches. Like this one part where there's a pow-pow on him, and, he's dodging to get out of the way of bullets and things, but, he's slamming hard into a porch when he's doing that. This dude has got to be in constant pain. And I'm not just talking about from looking in a mirror. I mean, it really is one of those things with the guy, and that's one of the things I love about Jonah. Like, he's your ultimate. Clint Eastwood is like, that's how I looked at Clint Eastwood growing up in like Dirty Harry and in the spaghetti westerns, was what we're seeing with Jonah Hex right now. This reads like an action movie, and it's so brilliantly well done. Like, it reads like my favorite action movies, I should say, where you've got a really strong story, but action sequence that make you just go, ugh. And it's something that you can only get in a Jonah Hex book. This would not be appropriate in Batman, for example. It's not the type of combat you're going to see from Bruce, unless he's doing a team-up with a Western hero.
Yeah, definitely. And it's, one of the things I digged about this Matt, it was like, 2 or 3, 4 pages of just action sequences. We have, just a visual, story being laid out. There's no inner dialogue. There's no, commentary or anything like that going through Jonah's head. It's more of just the focus on the killing, focus on the job at hand. And it's the improvised scrambling fighting that you're talking about that just really makes Jonah such a cool character, but also makes him very believable. Yeah. He just took on a dozen people. They're all armed to the teeth. He's, of course, Jonah. And at no point in time did I ever, in reading this, say, "Oh, this is bull." Come on, really? Because one of the things that used to annoy me as a kid, and even especially present day, when you'd see like the big shootout scenes, these guys are standing in the open street and bullets are bouncing around them. I'm like, really? The guy who's spent his life as a killer who shoots can't shoot straight enough when you're not undercover? With Jonah, he's bobbing and moving, he's ducking, weaving. It's, hitting a moving target's a lot harder than hitting a stationary one, especially when that's, that moving target is firing back at you. It's adding to the element of, just why he is, so dangerous. It's not just about he's, a tough guy. He's smart in his fighting. He knows what he's doing. He is a killing machine. And I love just how they laid this out and how they showed this.
I love that Jonah reminds us, though, that he's not a thug. He's a thinking man's killer. There's nothing else to call him. He is a killer. He is, a bounty hunter. He's a headhunter, whatever you want to call in that run. When these guys are coming in with the lanterns, he's firing at them, and you see flames bursting on them and stuff like that, and then him using that as an avenue to then do the same thing to the next guy on his horse. It just really shows, just on the battlefield, to be able to, with all the carnage going on around him, all the shooting, they were ambushed. They were going to be killed because they knew too much, Jonah and Arkham. They figured out this crime group. They figured out that the leaders of the Gotham were corrupt. All these families that they're manipulating, things like puppet masters, they're being killed because they know too much. And for Jonah in the middle of all this with that many people, and these aren't people who are just throwaways. These are guys who have killed before, too, that are coming after him. Because there was a lot of confidence in those leaders that these guys were going to get the job done, not just because of superior numbers, but because, they know what they're doing, too. Jonah took them out, I want to say, with relative ease, even though it's clear that, he's going to wake up in the morning with a whole bunch of pain.
Oh, yeah. And, it's funny because these guys are killers, so it's killer versus a killer, but it is just that different style and the different fighting. And when you're talking about the lanterns, I was just sitting there, and those are some of the scenes where I hooped and hollered. Because I love seeing improvisational and that type of fighting style, and it was just so cool because the lanterns, bam, explodes, fires everywhere, and he just keeps on fighting, and he fights through it. Ghost, and the other thing I love seeing was him going through multiple weapons. Because that's the other thing that always gets me when these people have an unlimited number of shots in their weapons. Like, no, That's a 6-shooter. It holds 6 rounds. That's it. He had 2 of them. They showed him using it. He started off with the rifle, went through the rifle, dropped the rifle, picked up his pistols. I love seeing that. It's an element of realism to the story, and it could be something that you could very easily lose or very easily forget in combat. I was so glad to see that they didn't lose it in this, and that they kept count on bullet count, or I don't know if they actually sat there counted bullets, but to me it looks like they got a good number and a good matchup for what he did.
Yeah, amen. And the sense of the impressiveness of what he's doing with the speed required for what he needs to do. Because these guys are on horses. So they're coming at him fast, hard, and heavy, firing at him. So he's got to be sticking and moving, and also coming up with split-second game plans on how to handle each one, while at the same time protecting and defending himself enough that he might be hurt at the end, but he's not dead.
Yeah. Well, you see that in the one panel where he's shooting. In the one panel, he's shooting forward as the guy is trying to sneak up behind him. Then he turns, bam, and gets that guy. It was just that boom, boom, quick movement, quick. You see the problem, identify it, and fight. You don't think about it; you just do. And that's the difference between Jonah and these guys. These guys, yes, they're killers. Yes, they are hired, thugs. They probably have a pretty good body count, in their own rights, but Jonah is this machine, and I love just seeing him in action. It was just a really cool thing. But very beginning of this, we see the planning. We see he knows it's coming, and it's funny because I was laughing because they're like, "Yeah, they sent this group over to ambush them." I'm like, "Really? Did they really ambush Jonah, or did he ambush them? Was he waiting for them, knowing, okay, they're going to come for me. I'm going to sit at this spot. This is a good defendable spot. I'm on the high ground. I know where they're going to approach me from. They only got one avenue of entrance." So how much of that was Jonah picking, I want to fight at Arkham? How much of that was them attacking him at Arkham? And I loved that part of it.
Amen. Yeah, I agree with that. That's one of the things that really struck me about this was this sense that there's a cult coming after them. And it's either you get them first, or they're eventually going to get you. They've got too much power, too much influence to ignore. We've seen in present day what this cult can do. Back when Greg Rucka was originally introducing that, straight on through to things we saw in Final Crisis with this, cult of crime and the whole cult of Cain stuff that was going on. So it's interesting to see this brought back to Gotham in the past, to see that this wasn't what we saw in Final Crisis was not the first time that had been attempted in Gotham. And I like that sense of history to it. I'm choosing to believe, Final Crisis didn't happen, right? There was no crisis in the DC universe, so I guess I'm choosing to believe that the crime Bible on some level did happen because we got Batwoman in present day. Yeah.
And Batwoman has made reference to the crime Bible.
So that history does exist. I love Arkham's reaction to all of this. Where you see him in the background just horrified by what he's seeing around him, and then figuring that this guy was going to be shown mercy because he spoke up. But I didn't have an issue with what Hex did there, because the guy was going to die. I actually think that was mercy.
Yeah, big time. It's the. Mercy killing, is it still a killing? Is it not? Yeah, there's a fine line there, but it fit Jonah. It fit what he was doing and why he did it. This guy, he was gut shot. He was dying a very slow, painful death. Jonah ended his suffering.
Yeah, absolutely. Seeing Blackgate and Cromwell and all these guys gathering up to debate the issue of Jonah Hex. I should say Cromwell was the captive of I love that Cromwell now needs to be rescued by Hex and Arkham, where he wasn't all too keen on all that before, but now he's going to be really glad to see them. But these lords of crime who are kind of harboring over him, I liked seeing that not everyone was convinced Jonah was dead. I love the debate around the table. There's people who would be a little savvy, especially in the military. People were, in different places. You got the military guy saying that despite his reputation, Hex is still a man and men die. But then, the other guy saying, hey, we should have insisted on a body here. It's nearly dawn. Our agents aren't back. We don't know what's going on here. And if you're trying to run and control something, lack of information is always a danger. because that's how somebody gets the upper hand on you. I loved the intelligence of these guys debating in this room, because these are supposed to be intelligent, learned men, who rose to power because of their brains and because of their savvy. If they aren't asking these type of questions, I've got a major issue with it.
Oh, big time, man. We have an intelligent criminal element, and for them to overlook something like, okay, Jonah's, is he dead? Is he not dead? For them to, underestimate him would have been I would have been angry. But seeing the fact that they're addressing these exact same, thought process, like, hey, are we sure he's dead? We should have insisted on the body, just that open debate amongst them. I love seeing that because, when you get an intelligent criminal element, you have to have this whole logical, you have to have this discussion that can't be based purely on, wahaha, I'm going to conquer the world. No. These are thinkers. These are, yes, they're nasty, evil men who are doing nasty, evil things, but they're not idiots. And I love seeing that. I love seeing the intelligent villain. This is, and actually it's kind of neat seeing them go up against Jonah because, Jonah's not used to dealing, as far as I know, he's not used to dealing with an organization of this magnitude. He's more of, he's dealt with criminal gangs, he's dealt with that, but nothing of this level where it's not just the killers, it's the thinkers, it's the politicians, it's the every aspect within the Gotham society these people have their hands in. And I want to see how Jonah deals with all that, or if he just goes through and just, because, the saying you cut off the head of the snake dies. Well, what if it's a multi-headed snake? And if you take out these guys in this room, are you really taking out the organization?
Who else is wearing a ring that we don't know about?
Exactly.
That's one of the things that I really like about this, because I'm with you. I don't know that, you can really end this society. All you can do is force them to regroup, rethink, and well, we know in the present day, this group is back. So did he kill this group? No, we know that already.
True. Yeah, and that's the other thing. We already know some stuff from the present, but I want to see how much he does. Do they, does he take them out where he thinks he takes them out and they go underground? Or is there's just a lot, I'm thinking like 2-3 steps ahead right now, trying to figure out where this is going to end. What's going to be the end game? Is it just going to be massive death? Is it going to be massive death on top of, investigation? What are we going to see from Jonah? And I'm actually very excited to see how Jonah handles a situation like this.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I love what they were trying to do to Cromwell.
Yeah.
Using him as an example. You're taking your chief of police, which is, someone who really was standing up against them and saying, hey, if we start showing them this is the leader of their police, this is the leader of their security, this is the guy who we're going to show you, hey, if you turn on us, if you try to go against us, this is what's waiting for you. I mean, that's the ultimate in intimidation. And that's one of the great things about this group is it's not about a gunfight. That's part of it, true, but there's more to it than that. And that's one of the things where it's interesting to see Hex operate in this type of environment. And, we already know from the first issue, he's not comfortable in big cities, period. And we're starting to see why. This offers this kind of opportunity for this situation to happen. And, where you've got people from multiple different avenues and multiple different bankrolls, doing things in a crafty, shifty way. Hex likes it in your face. He likes, the Last Stand at the OK Corral. It's down and dirty men fighting, gritty kind of stuff. I like seeing that Hex, though, isn't a one-trick pony. Even though this might not be in his comfort zone, we're seeing him improvise, again, like you mentioned earlier, outside of his wheelhouse, trying to save the chief of police. And that going horribly wrong when he goes up against the Hulk.
Yeah, that dude is massive. And I love seeing this just a great ending to the issue where, Jonah's looking like he's about to have his head removed from his neck, and just what he's up against. I got to wonder, how is he going to turn it around? What's he going to do to take out this dude? It's one of those kind of like gets you laughing at the end of the issue going, oh yeah, this dude's going to get hurt really bad.
That's funny. Fear not, Doctor, your time is coming. I actually gave Arkham a bit of credit there. A lot of credit, actually. Because you're in a situation now where he's seen what Hex is all about. The bravery in the face of sheer overwhelming numbers. And, he might not agree with Hex's methods, but I think at this point he's come to realize that, like that or not, there is a nobility to what Hex is trying to do here. And he steps up. And, diving on the back of the guy like that's really going to do any good. He gets swatted away like a fly. I loved it.
It reminded me of the old Bugs Bunny cartoon when he's doing the wrestling. And he's like, and can't move the thing.
The confidence of the guy, doing the torture and all that stuff down there, though, just basically walking around this whole scene, knowing that his Igor-like thug is going to, take care of things. I like villains like that. It reminds me of in James Bond, like characters like Oddjob and stuff like that with the Goldfinger. I always liked those type of characters where you've got a Goldfinger he's not really your brutal thug fighting type. He's got Oddjob for that. This is the guy, who just kind of walks around, surveys things. That he's got a creepy side to him and that he's going to pull in all kinds of different things to make your life miserable, but perfectly content to watch all of it from the comfort of an armchair. And that's what this guy is. I love that. There's something a little creepier about that to me than your traditional, like a Metallo or, a thug like that, who you're going to go fight face to face. There's something creepier about a more cerebral guy to me. I don't know.
Yeah, well, and he gets pleasure out of the torture.
Yeah,
he doesn't want the chief of police to pass out because there's so much more to do to him. He wants him to be awake. He wants to see that reaction. He wants that man to feel the pain and know what he's doing to him. I thought that was just a great psycho villain.
Jim, El Diablo, actually, I want to introduce the creative team on that one. It is Justin Gray and Jimmy Palmiotti again as writers, but the art team changes to Jordy Burnett and Rob Schwager on colors. And Rob Lay is the letterer on this one. And I really like El Diablo. It's one of the cool things. I'm with you, what you mentioned earlier in this segment, about how you're liking the fact that we've got a book that has a second feature in it that features a different Western hero. I always get leery of that because we're going now to the higher price point. I'm hoping that because of the fact that it's a Western book and something unique in its presentation, and that beginning story is so good, that it'll convince people that, hey, it's really worth this great story that's in the back about El Diablo. Because I like this kind of stuff. I love having this kind of background because I don't think El Diablo can carry his own monthly title like Jonah Hex can. But I think he's interesting. This idea that Lazarus Lane is this bank teller who, gained this like Indian curse to turn into El Diablo is to me really awesome. And I loved how we see him ride into town, this town that obviously has got something going wrong in it. And as he's riding into town, he's attacked by what appears to be these zombies. But we know right from the get-go that it may not necessarily be what we think we're seeing. Just because of the way that, because I've read this now a couple of times, and the way that El Diablo is carrying himself in this.
Yeah, it was a really cool eeriness as he was riding into town, as he's coming up, and then boom, the zombie creatures or whatever they actually are, cursed individuals, or I'm not exactly sure what we got going on here hit, but it was just, again, there's certain formulas to a zombie story that you need to have, and just the massive horde of these creatures attacking and then devouring his horse alive, and just him going out and shooting his way to the ladder, and they get him into the quote unquote safe area, which what's safe one minute is not safe the next in any zombie story. This was just following some great, just standard zombie must-have themes to it that, I really didn't know about the whole El Diablo, that he had mystic powers or any of that stuff. I always thought El Diablo was kind of like a guy like, Zorro or Jonah Hex, or just somebody who was really trained, who could kick some serious butt, and, it was just a tough fighter. So for me, this is kind of adding a new sort of element to it with the mystic side of them.
I didn't know you didn't know, because I know you've read stories with El Diablo in it, but El Diablo was a comrade, versus being somebody who you would have had like a big focus on what his backstory is. That's interesting.
Yes, I went into this thinking, oh, cool, El Diablo, and I, and then you see the Mystic side. I'm like, ooh, this is interesting. And to be honest, a lot of times with me mixing genres, like the cowboy genre, the Mystic genre, I kind of tread lightly because I don't want to lose a cool quality Western story. But with this, because we have this supernatural zombie side of it, with this Indian curse on the town or whatever they actually are, it's fitting the supernatural tying into it. If that had been Jonah Hex in there dealing with zombies, I would have been like, I don't know, okay. But because this is a mystic, Western hero, I'm cool with it.
Well, it kind of adds in elements of movies like High Plains Drifter for me, because that had a mystical thing going on for it, which I really liked. So I'm a fan of a film like that, where it's, I mean, that's not zombie, but I'm talking about where at least the lead has kind of a mystical background, because the way he rode in kind of out of nowhere, it's almost like he appeared on the scene and then he vanishes into nothing. It's kind of like El Diablo Light.
Yeah.
And I'm always leery to say that because that character certainly was not light. But I mean, as far as light on the supernatural end of it, whereas El Diablo's more in your face with it. I like this whole thing. Being El Diablo is not super cool because in order to channel that, you got to be knocked out. So basically, in order for your powers to work, somebody's got to hit you with the butt of a gun or something they got to knock you out cold. It's not an issue of punching you or something. There's no nice way to do this. So they're in the middle of this crazy situation. And here's the other part too. These are these guys who are yelling because, and the argument is over whether or not they should have saved Lazarus to begin with, which is interesting.
Well, it's, again, Zombie 101.
Right.
It's one man to beat if you're running away from a zombie horde. You'd like to think you're all noble and you'll fight to the last dying breath. But, if I could feed you to the crowd and calm the crowd down, maybe I could get away then. That notion will enter in my head, and I will think twice about it. And I love the fact that they're looking at it this way, and especially after they knock him unconscious, the one guy's like, hey, why don't we feed him to them? He's on cold. We'll get out of here. I love seeing that.
Am I the only idiot that didn't realize the Indian was tied up the first time around?
No.
I did. Yeah. I totally did not realize it the first time when I read it through. I'm like, I thought he was there with them. Like these were the survivors, and yes, they were blaming him because he was an Indian, and they're saying, okay, the shaman guy did all this. But I totally was like, I never caught the fact until the second read through. I'm like, oh my gosh, that dude's tied up because they blamed him, which is a silly little thing, I know, but I completely missed it the first time through.
Well, I actually think he maybe had something to do with it.
Oh, he might. Yeah, you might be right. You think there's actually some legitimacy?
There might be, because this, he is the mystic shaman, the medicine man.
Yeah.
When he looked into the eyes of El Diablo, you could see that he was cursed, and he has the answers to what they need. He's like, hey, only a demon can kill the cursed. So, all right there's your answer. And
except, in movies, usually, it's not that guy.
Yeah.
He's usually falsely accused, and I see this being more of a, he's being a victim of circumstance, just he's guilt because he knows, versus him actually doing anything. If that makes sense?
Oh, definitely.
This is where I think his background knowledge is hurting him versus him actually being a bad guy or anything. Because I don't know, does the guy give you, just from the way he's being presented here, does he give you the vibe that he did anything? I just don't see that.
No, I'd be willing to bet money that he's innocent, and he just, because he's an Indian shaman, he knows about Indian curses, but he didn't actually invoke the curse on him. I'm thinking probably one of the other survivors did something stupid and invoked the curse. And this guy knows about the curse because, hey, this is what he does. And he knows, hey, that's why he's telling him what you can do. But because who he is, because of all of that, he's getting the blame. They're going to point fingers at him, and it's going to end up being, okay, I'm in trouble here because, he's outnumbered a little bit. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the side that he's being blamed falsely.
Unless something happened to him that caused him to do it.
The only thing that holds me away from that is he's not sitting there telling him, you're getting what you deserve.
Yeah,
He's not laying that out. He's just telling him, matter of fact, that, hey, I can't stop this. Once they get started, only thing that can stop it is a demon can kill the undead. That's the only way this stops.
But I loved the whole curse thing, and then we see El Diablo come in. It was a nice pacing, because we're left with the cliffhanger of seeing El Diablo for the first time. And I get the whole Zorro vibe where you're coming from, because he has that Zorro-like appearance when he comes out, which I really like that. I always liked Zorro. I like that concept, so El Diablo is very welcome to me in this book. And the artwork of Jordy Burnett on this and Rob Schwager's colors, I just think are just really just sharp and spectacular. I mean, this is edgy Western material that I always enjoyed their work on Jonah Hex, and it's great to see them just delivering this with El Diablo in this backup feature.
Yeah, and I like that we do have two very distinctive different styles, but they blend well together. Mm-hmm. They fit in each other's book, being together in the same book, but they are definitely different styles, art styles. I think that's a good compliment.
Absolutely.
Look at those strange little beetles. They look... Great neutron!
Hey guys, it's Bobby C. also known as Star Wolf Oakley on the forums. 3 points. One, at the New York Comic Con last weekend, I asked the people at the Superman panel about the Eradicator, and they said they weren't planning to bring it back, but I did wonder if the Eradicator, maybe in a new version, would wonder not why Superman pretends to be Clark Kent, even though he isn't exactly pretending, but why he would be a reporter instead of someone more important in Metropolis, like the mayor of Metropolis, the head of Kent Industries or something like that. Of course, on one angle it could be, if he's a reporter, he can be closer to Lois, but maybe there's more to it than that. I was just wondering. Point 2, Justice League issue 2, and the part where Dr. Stone says to Victor, that superhumans will make, football players obsolete. He says specifically catching footballs and scoring touchdowns is a joke. It specifically reminded me of Kingdom Come near the beginning of the story, where Norman McKay is walking by a pawn shop or an antique store, and they have an autographed baseball from the last World Series, which was in 2002, which does make you wonder exactly why. It does make you wonder if, in a world with superhumans, would people be interested in sports or athletics anymore? Of course, Kingdom Come is different because there are hundreds of superheroes in that world, but it just sort of reminded me of it. I don't know if that's what Jeff Johns was going for or not. And finally, the thing was in Green Lantern issue 2, were we supposed to think Hal Jordan was finally going to kill Sinestro when he says, too many adios Sinestro? Was Hal finally thinking, I've had enough of Sinestro, I'm finally going to kill him, even though, of course, Sinestro couldn't let him because he created the power ring. But maybe that was it. Hal has just finally had enough of Sinestro and is going to put him down. Regarding Sinestro fixing the bridge, it's not like Hal couldn't fix the bridge himself if Sinestro had let him, but obviously Hal wouldn't expect Sinestro to do that. Finally, the thing about that issue is it seems Sinestro wants to teach Hal what it really means to be a Green Lantern and do it right this time. That seems to be his plan. But the question is, about Sinestro, I've wondered this in the past, like, what drove him over the edge? Was it the death of his wife or something else? But it seems he's always been concerned with protecting his home planet of Korugar, and in something called Green Lantern Emerald Dawn 2, he wanted to protect it from the Kuns, that I believe they're a Legion villain, Legion of Superheroes villain race. But I'm just wondering if Sinestro's desire to protect Korugar is, again, what drove him over the edge. He felt he had to protect Korugar from external and internal threats, and that drove him away from being a Green Lantern. because I found Sinestro interesting, and Jeff Johnson's new issue is making Sinestro even more interesting. Okay, keep up the great work, and thank you very much. Bye.
First of all, I love the character of the Eradicator, but I think whenever you're doing something like this where you're clearly relaunching Superman from the beginning, even though they're going to give him, and we've got a present-day Superman as well, who has a history there, I think you're in danger if you start introducing all of these elements back in unnecessarily. Like, does that mean we'll never have an Eradicator again? Well, no. If there's a writer who comes along that has a really great idea for introducing the Eradicator and using that concept again, we will see the Eradicator again. I actually, at some point in time over the years, I'll be kind of shocked if somebody doesn't come up with an idea for an Eradicator-like character to use again, because it's kind of an interesting concept. But for right now, to throw it in there, I think it would be too much and too distracting from the focus on the core characters, which is, I think, really what they're stripping everything down. Let's get to the core of Superman. Let's really redevelop this character from the ground up, so who he is, so people identify with this Superman, what he's all about, and you want to follow him. So it's interesting. I agree with him. It would be kind of cool to see how the Eradicator would react to this Superman in this world, because there's a lot of different to react to. So I think he's touching on exactly what I think would be interesting storytelling with the Eradicator. I just think it's way too soon for that, but I think it would be cool to see.
Yeah. One of the things they talked about with the concepts and kind of keeping things open, keeping things a little bit looser, and just, they didn't want to, tie up a creator's their creative process. They didn't want to have people completely locked in. This happened, and they're leaving things a little bit open. And I think Eradicator is one of those characters that they're right now not locking in, saying yes, he existed, because who knows where he's going to play out in another story. There may be a creator may come in with this great story and this great idea to have, tie in the Eradicator, same thing, tie in Cyborg Superman, and just all these other really cool characters that we've seen that they haven't mentioned, they haven't locked into stone yet, because they don't want to, on day one, remove all these storytelling options. And I think that's a great way to handle this. And it's something, it's taken me a little while to really just get my hands on it and just get comfortable with the notion of letting go some of my more neurotic tendencies. I admit, I have a habit of being one of those guys who's like, I got to know this, and this. But, it's something that I got to let go of. I got to, and I'm just sitting down, enjoying the story that's in front of me. Focus on my pleasure. Focus on what I'm liking about a story, not what about this, what about that. I am thinking outside the book, but I'm not thinking continuity-wise. If that's kind of making sense. I want things to connect. I want this to be a giant DC universe, and I like when I see that. But for me right now, it's this whole relaunch 52 has been a really freeing experience for me, and I'm enjoying just this process and what we're getting, and this the beginning, the brand new beginning, and the brand new day.
Brand new day. That's a Spider-Man story.
I know. That's why I threw it in there. This is a brand new day done correctly.
Was anything asked about, you mentioned Cyborg Superman. Actually, even more so than the Eradicator, Cyborg Superman plays pretty pivotally into recent Green Lantern and Green Lantern Corps storylines. That character, what's the status of him?
Yeah, I don't remember if anybody asked about that. I'm trying to, and as soon as it was funny, because as soon as I said it in my rant, I started thinking, did they mention him? And I don't recall anyone mentioning Cyborg Superman.
Pretty pivotal character.
Oh, big time.
So I don't know. That's one that I'm particularly intrigued with. Is he still around, and what would they do with him? Because I thought his character development was great. But again, if you're starting at ground zero, where do you go with him now? So it'll be interesting to see what they could do with a Cyborg Superman if they reintroduce that concept. I'm guessing. You know what? I'm going to go out on a limb and say, if you've rebooted Superman, more than likely there isn't a Cyborg Superman right now.
Well, I think actually probably because Superman did die. So you have to have the death of Superman story.
But that would mean there would be Eradicator then, going on that logic, because Eradicator was part of that too, remember? And Superboy.
True.
But Superboy's been rebooted.
Right, and I think with the reboot of the death, it took out Superboy, it took out Eradicator, but I'm betting it kept John Henry Irons and it kept Cyborg Superman.
I don't see. I guess we know John Henry Irons is a part of the Superman universe, but we don't know that he's Steel right now. Like,
True.
What have we seen to indicate that?
I don't think we've seen any indications of Steel, but this is just my thinking and where I think they're going. I think they dropped the two parts of it, but they kept, so the whole aftermath of the death of Superman, you probably had Steel and Cyborg Superman, and then, when Clark came back, he dealt with Cyborg Superman, but we probably had the whole thing with Coast City, because that was something that sent Hal over the edge, and we know that all happened, so I think...
How do we know? Wait. How do we know that happened the way that it did?
We don't know the exact way it happened, but we do know it did happen, because I'm pretty sure in interviews they've asked that, and they said yes, all that the parallax stuff with Hal, all of that did happen with the core and with Kyle,
right?
So the whole reboot, all of that stuff happened.
But that doesn't mean, though. That doesn't mean. Here's the thing: we know that. Here's what we know happened: Superman died fighting Doomsday, and he came back. We know that happened. But remember, the bits with Lois and him didn't happen during all that.
Right.
So who's to say that there was Reign of Supermen? Supergirl wasn't around for any of that. None of that stuff. So many elements of that have been taken out now. So
True.
I think that story's stripped down a lot more basic than we might even realize. Coast City was destroyed, yes. But... how do we know that it wasn't just like a mogul type character or something like that? It just happened as collateral damage through all that. How do we know it was Cyborg Superman?
We don't, and I'm just guessing.
Yeah. I'm not saying you're wrong. Don't give me that. What I'm saying is, I guess what I'm realizing with this new DCU is a lot of these storylines, I guess that's where I'm saying I'm taking what they're saying about things being vague to heart. We know those things happen. We don't know the details. And I'm really I think what they're saying, this is what I mean about that freedom. I guess I'm defending what you started with earlier. The freedom writers have is to develop what that actually looked like as needed for their own storytelling. Because remember, this is a relaunched universe from start to finish. We know that for Batman, certain of key pivotal events happen, but even Hush has been drastically altered because of the fact that we know Catwoman does not know his identity, which changes major elements of Hush. So you see, I mean, there's a lot of events going back that didn't play out the way that we thought they did because of this character still being alive, that character not being alive, you know what I mean? And this character knowing, that character not knowing, this character being too young for that to happen. There's all kinds of things that didn't play out quite the way we think. They happened in this universe, but there's going to be slight alterations. I think Barbara Gordon is a great example of all bets are off.
Yeah, and it's funny. I wonder if they're ever going to retell some of these classic stories so we would see this universe's version of the story.
Yes, in the books. I think that's just it. I think we're expecting a Bible to be laid out that lays out every single little fact. I think I'm really listening for the first time to what they're saying. What they're saying is, yes, certain key pivotal events that we all expect did actually happen, but the specific details of them and how they play into the present day for these characters will be developed by the creative teams as they need to use them. We are not restricting them with those events. We are letting them have them there to use them as necessary and to play with as necessary. I think this is what they're trying to tell us. Example, Coast City's destruction. It happened, yes. The actual details of it, when it's necessary, we will have them re-explained if it's needed.
Yeah.
So I don't think we know all those. I guess I'm saying I don't believe we know any details right now. I think those things they happened. They're deliberately vague in a good way. They're saying, let's give these creative teams full reign. This is a new universe, a new world. Yes, key events happen. Here's how. And let the developers of that particular title use it as necessary.
Amen. Amen.
So I think that's what's happening there. So is it possible Cyborg Superman's around? I guess I'm answering the question there. Yeah, there's 100% possibility that character's around. Is it possible that character has never been introduced? Absolutely. I think that one's a roll of the dice. I think everything is. And I like that. Cyborg. Does he we're talking about I think what's the key in this world is fear. Fear of something different. Fear of these heroes. Fear of the unknown. Fear of power that is greater than your own. What kind of, am I in danger? Are these people giving off radiation? Are there, we're in this blogging society where people go psycho over things without getting real facts. And they'll believe misleading information from other people on a whim. Like, nobody does any real research. And here's the thing. We all have lives that are busy and stuff like that, but the truth of the matter is, we take that we know the smallest tidbits of information to be that we know the whole story about something. You know what I mean?
Oh, big time.
So,
big time.
if you take a look at that, the way this world reacts, would that make football obsolete? Well, are the Olympics obsolete because of new sporting events, new technology, things like that? No, nothing. I don't think any one thing is necessarily going to make something else obsolete unless we lose. I don't think. Like, can you imagine how boring it would be? First of all, I love metahumans. I love superheroes. But could you imagine how boring television would be if everything revolved around them all the time?
Exactly. And it's like high school football is still very popular to watch. College football is still very popular to watch, even though we have the pros that we could see. But it's, there is going to be different people who aren't going to have any interest in the pros and will stick with the amateurs. Like, for me, basketball, I like college hoops over professional hoops. When you get to the March Madness, I'll watch games and I'll actually pay attention to it. But during the regular season NBA, I could care less. During regular season college, I could care less. But there's that periods that draw me in. So if we had these superheroes flying around, would I be paying attention to what they're doing? Oh, definitely. Would I be searching the internet? Yes, constantly looking up. But I wouldn't stop watching football. I wouldn't stop, March Madness. I wouldn't stop watching a World Series. There is going to be these distractions, but it's going to be multiple areas to look at.
See, I think when it comes to rationally looking at the world the way it is, fear wins. That's what's happening in this world. I like the honesty of this DC universe right now. I want these heroes so bad to become the shining light, the beacon. Can they show us the DC universe as we know it? To me, one of the things that I've always loved about the DC universe was the idea that these heroes were able to make a brighter world out of the darkness. To really show people, like, DC universe always felt more pure to me. This has gotten gritty. And not gritty for the sake of just, being dirty and all that. I don't mean it that way. It's more down to the street level. Mm-hmm. And it's, the question is, can these heroes bring us up above that? Can they, can there be a Justice League in this world that shows us a better way? I don't know. I want to see. That's what I'm really intrigued about with this right now. It feels like today's world facing these heroes, and what are they going to do to step out of it? I don't know. I'm into all that. He's right on the whole thing. I think that discussion, it's a fear of evolution versus respecting differences and saying, wow, look at that. Look what this guy can do. Instead of being in awe of it, I think we'd all be in awe at first, then people would immediately become distrustful because of strange things that they'd hear. I would love to believe that if we saw Superman, we would react appropriately. And I just don't know that we would. And I love that kind of reality.
See, I'm a professional skeptic. So I kind of, when I look at a situation, I do, look at, okay, what's their end game? Why is somebody doing this, obviously very benevolent, nice, over-the-top action? Are they trying to get something out of it? Are they, is this a scam? What's the second play? Why are they doing this? And it's, professional, problem with what I do. You kind of have to have that attitude. Part of it is me, who I am. I do have that level of skepticism, and I've always had that. So I know in the universe, I would love this. I would be like, oh, that's cool. But in the back of my mind, I would be sitting there thinking, what if? What are they doing? Is there going to be, down the line, they're going to try to, take over? Are they going to, make it so that Superman goes, you know what, I'm done saving you all. I'm taking over. I'm going to be the new emperor of Earth. Do what I say because I am Superman. There would be fear in my...
Infamous.
I would be thinking that could happen.
Infamous.
Yes.
You know that Mark Waid book?
Oh, big time. Big time.
Yeah.
I would be 100% thinking that could happen because every time I read Superman and every time you actually see the power levels that he has, or if anytime anybody asks me, would you want to have the powers of Superman? The first thought that always pops in my head is no, because I'd be afraid I'd take it over the edge.
You know what? I'd be afraid for you to have the power of Superman now. See, I don't know. I'd be like, would you want the power of Superman? Yeah, I want to go fly around. I'm not worried about taking over the world or nothing. You're right, though. Taking the joking out of it, that would be something like, how would you know if you could control yourself? You want to think.
Yeah. I'd like to think that I would. And I'd like to think you would. I'm actually leaning more towards you would be more responsible with the power than I would. But in the end, I'm glad I don't have that choice to make.
Well, you know what? Here's the funny thing. With any of those speculations, you don't know what you would do. I think, here's the other problem I have, too. Would I save people or would I be selfish with it? You know what I mean? In the sense that, would I fly around and, would there come a point in time? Because Superman's got, a tough job. He's got to. He tries to be everywhere at once and do everything at once. Well, at least he hasn't. I should correct myself. What's this guy like? I'm curious to see how he handles all that. I think that's something we haven't seen quite established yet. I mean, he's Superman. He's obviously Superman, so we're going to see the Superman type of thing. But that's not an easy job to try and save everybody and do everything. I think that was explored pretty well in Grounded. That was one of the things I really enjoyed about that storyline was the exploration that Superman's just got a tough time being him. It's taxing, and I kind of like that. Seeing that it's not all hunky dory being Superman. I don't know. I'd like to fly around and see the sights and see the world and fly into outer space and stuff like that. You imagine with thinking how cool that is, could you imagine partway through it going, okay, hey, I'm flying around the Eiffel Tower. What do you mean I got to fly back to Kansas and save this dude from his farming materials? You want me to do what? Stop him from a crop duster?
I'm hanging on vacation very quickly, Just you think about it, you're sitting there, or you're over in Europe, you're partying, you're having some fun.
Right.
Next thing you know, you see on the news there's some natural disaster in another corner of the world. You're like, oh man, I'm having fun. Do I really got to go over there, save all those people? Can't somebody else do it?
Right. So I don't know. That'd be an interesting thing to see. I'd like to think I would respect the fact that I'd been given a gift and that I would react accordingly. That's kind of the reality of it. I'd like to think that I'd be like, wow, look what I can do. I've been given this gift. And yes, there are perks with it, but boy, there's responsibility. It's like great power comes great responsibility, whole shtick. I'd like to think that would be me. And I don't think till you're actually in it. I think we could say nobly wise, oh, yes, I would definitely do that and jump over do that. I'd like to think that. I think because of the fact that we're questioning it, we have better odds of actually doing it than the person who says, oh, I'd do it, no problem at all, it'd be easy. I think that's unrealistic. I think the people that question themselves are probably the people more likely to be have better chances of being heroic. I'm not saying that's a guarantee because I'm still questioning myself. But what I'm saying is I think people that do question themselves would actually stand a better chance of being a hero because they wouldn't just take things at face value. They would question and think things through and stand the chance of maybe not slipping down a bad path.
Yeah, and it's kind of also the road to hell is paved with good intentions because I see that a lot in Sinestro. Because he's got this such strong, fervent, fire inside him to protect his people. And as a Green Lantern, he wanted order. He wanted his planet to be perfect. And it's that, that obsession that he had with order and perfection that kind of drove him over the line. He started doing what no Green Lantern should do, where he was instilling fear in his people. And that's why he got, booted out of the Corps. And you still see that level of him. You see that protection for his hometown. You see just the level of power he wields when he has the ring. There is this great Green Lantern inside him, but like any other person, he does have his weaknesses. He does have his character flaws, and in a way, you kind of say that he. I don't want to say he cares too much, but in a way he does. He's obsessed, and he's just so focused on what he thinks is the right mission that he loses sight that it's not just one way or the other. There is a mixture. You got to make sure you have balance, order with chaos. There has to be an equality of humanity throughout everything.
Let's talk about Sinestro a little bit and some of his comments there. Now, he did kill Sinestro during that turn when he became Parallax. That was the end. He did kill Sinestro during that whole sequence of events. So this wouldn't be the first time he tried. I don't see, and that's part of the reason why I'm like, no, Hal would not try to kill Sinestro now, because Hal does not want to be that guy again. See, the thing is, I don't think it was the issue that Hal couldn't have saved all his people. I don't mean it. When we were having that discussion, I never in a million years thought that Hal couldn't have done everything that Sinestro did. It was the way that Sinestro did it that he was in awe of. I think what Sinestro's trying to do here is exactly what he's saying. He's trying to up Hal's game. It's about what Hal doesn't know about how to use the ring. For as much of an expert as Hal is, there's still more to learn. Sinestro knows things that he doesn't because, Sinestro has perfected and honed himself in a certain way. And I would imagine, though, that on some level, every lantern, honor guard level lantern, I'm not saying that you'd necessarily be labeled honor guard, but I mean those kind of veterans who've been lanterns can teach each other something about how the ring works, because their way of using will would be different. And I think we're seeing that with Sinestro. That's Sinestro's way of handling things. And Hal can learn for that, but Hal should also be skeptical of that.
And we've seen Sinestro able to do stuff that Hal hasn't been able to do in the past.
Yeah.
I think in their first meeting, when Sinestro kind of destroyed the plane that Hal was in, Sinestro then reassembled it again. That same type of level of commitment and just discipline, mental discipline.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy. It's and Sinestro's big thing, that was his downfall also, was his thirst for power. Sinestro has a thirst for power. I don't think he likes sharing the spotlight at all. He needs to be the number one, head cheese, no matter what group he's in. And it's that ego that he has. But he backs up his ego with the fact that how do I want to put this? That he has the skill set, the discipline, the drive to hone himself. He's not looking for the lazy, easy way out. He's willing to work at everything that he does, which makes him an interesting villain, or whatever gray area you want to call him. Do you consider him a villain?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
But there's always that moments that he has where I understand what he's doing and why he's doing it. I disagree with his methods sometimes, but the underlining story is he is trying to do the right thing. Yeah.
He's an interesting character. I don't know. It's one of the things I'm really loving about the New 52. I've got to say, there's got to be a real short list of titles that I don't find myself thinking about beyond the issues. When I'm done reading them, where I'm thinking about what this character's doing, what that character's doing, the motivation of these characters. And I think it really is because each title is so different. We've got these different little mini lines within the big line, and yet they're all interconnected in this crazy world where they don't trust anybody, which kind of fits today's society. It's a very contemporary piece right now. It's taking these classic, iconic characters and keeping them at their core of what has made them work for so many years, but having them do direct social commentary on the current state of our society. And I think that's what I'm finding really compelling right now, is that we haven't lost these characters in doing this. We've brought them into our modern society, and they are reacting and reflecting the modern society that's going on around them. That's what's fun about all this right now, I think. I don't know if you're getting that vibe, but that's definitely what's driving me right now.
Oh, definitely getting that same vibe. And it's, I throw out the term realistic because it does feel like it fits present day society and how we would look at these heroes, how we would deal with people who are beyond normal.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Hello, Sean and Jim. I have been tried to get into comics by some friends for a while now, and they've been talking up the New 52 to me, and I've been a fan of the superhero movies and have a general sense of some of the backstories of the main characters in the DC universe, but I've never actually bought a comic before. The New 52 sounded interesting to me, so while I was at work, I Google searched for podcasts and found you guys. I've listened to about 4 podcasts and about the New 52 and really enjoyed the positivity and in-depthness you bring to the reviews. Based off hearing the podcast, I went to my comic book store and bought Justice League 1 and 2 and Batman 1 and 2 and really enjoyed them, especially Batman. I signed up to get these issues monthly and also signed up for The Flash because I was kind of unfamiliar with that character, but it looked interesting to me. My question is that I want to add around 2 more titles to my monthly read list and are perplexed as to what to choose being a novice comic reader. Batman is my favorite character, so I may want to stay in his realm of the universe, but I also want to get a wide-ranging sense of what's going on. So I'm also open to more obscure choices or other Justice League characters such as Aquaman or Wonder Woman. Which 2 series would you guys suggest for someone who is a novice new to comic books? Thanks.
On the Batman end, Jim, I would probably immediately suggest Batgirl. You know, as far as just a different title in the Bat universe, or Batwoman, because you get like a female character vibe in both of those books. Nightwing is also a real strong contender in there. You know, I mean, those are 3 books that I would suggest, you know, in any of those veins, if you're interested in any of those characters, giving a shot if you want to stay in the Bat family. As far as, you know, he threw out 2 titles there, Aquaman and Wonder Woman. And as far as getting just kind of a more diverse feel, I would definitely, in a million years, suggest either of those 2. Those are 2 top-tier titles that I think are going on right now. 2 very different top-tier titles. You know, with Aquaman, you're dealing with a character who I love the commentary that's going on in that book, where they're really, you know, the years that people have felt that Aquaman was some kind of lesser character, he's basically showing them that they're wrong. You know, what you thought is just not who I am. And I love that about Mira. I love that, you know, and it's not complainy or whiny. It is this guy, he's out there being a hero and just showing you how it's done, and there's something cool about him. And it's very different. It's a different sort of world that he comes from. So that's worth trying. Wonder Woman. The honest reality is what I would tell anybody is, is there 1 or 2 titles I'd recommend? Any of those that I suggested right now, you know, staying in the Bat realm, those 3 that I mentioned are just 3 off the top of my head that I'd say you definitely want to give a shot to. Aquaman and Wonder Woman are definitely 2 that I would recommend. Wonder Woman, you've got that Amazon warrior, but then there's something more to her than that. And you know, it's gods and goddesses and her trying to overcome them. And, you know, it's the confidence of a Wonder Woman. You know, she's there's something about her that you just believe in her. And you can't help but want to rally behind her. And you just know that, like, if you're going into battle, first of all, Wonder Woman's not going to have your back because she's going to be in front of you. You got to be hoping that you're there, like, having her back on some level. You know, it's one of those things with the Wonder Woman. But that's kind of the coolness about her. Yeah, she is. It's funny. You know, there's other characters where you're like, if I'm going into battle, I'd like to have that character in my back. That just doesn't. That's not the way it would ever work with Wonder Woman. She's not going to stand behind you. That's kind of a good way to sum her up, which is something different with Wonder Woman. Those are titles that I would not hesitate to recommend on an instant, as far as, you know, if you're looking for some interesting characters to try out that you haven't before. I don't know how you are in Westerns. We were talking on this episode about All-Star Western, And that's a book that, we just talked about that I wouldn't hesitate to recommend either. I would really take a look at the lineup as a whole and start with your tastes and say, kind of like compare them to TV shows and films and books that you read and try out some of the books that fall into those genres or in those kind of flavors and give them a shot. There's a lot to love. And that's one of the things that I would say. But any of the titles that I just listed now, is there something I'm like kind of fits in? I'm trying to stay in his realm right now to help him branch out gradually, then kind of doing a drastic jump.
Well, I would say either the Superman books, Action or Superman, is some good stuff.
Can I say something about that? Action Comics, in particular. First of all, this isn't knocking Superman at all. Action Comics in particular. I made up a top 5 list that if I had to do it right this minute, there's no way in hell Action Comics would not be on that top 5 list. I will bump something from my top 5 list to hold on to Action right now. That's with issue 3. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, woof. So Action Comics, if you're, you might not be a Superman guy, it sounds like, but if you want to try something different, you can't, from Superman and Batman, you can't get two different kind of approaches. And then Superman and Batman and Action Comics is right now the book I would recommend as far as just giving that a shot if you're going to go for one Superman title right now. And it's hard to say because Superman's really good too, but Action Comics is a definite try.
Well, definitely because Action's exploring the young Superman just at the beginning of this process, and I think that has been for me it was a fun, it's a cool story. I'm really enjoying it. Looking forward to see where this is going to go in the future. So I definitely would throw Action over Superman if I had to pick one of the two titles.
You know why? You know why else I'd recommend Action to him? If he's reading Justice League, Action really predates that. It's kind of like they've kind of this initial arc with Action Comics is kind of the 0 issue to the universe. If Justice League is the number 1 issue to it, is how they were billing it, and that's kind of fun. So that might be a really good book to latch on to because of that aspect of it. Because he said he's looking for like 1 or 2 books. So I would say like an Action Comics, and then any of the Bat family recommendations that I had. Batgirl, I wouldn't hesitate to recommend. Batwoman. Nightwing, and that was Robin. Nightwing, and then I do miss having a Robin book, but Nightwing, and then Aquaman or Wonder Woman, either of those. And the only reason why I'm throwing it in that way is those 3 choices would be good tries if you want to stick in the Bat realm, and those 2 choices, either of those would be a good try if you want to jump outside of that and try something a little different.
Yeah, so. And another thing, if you're into the fantasy aspect of stories, like the Dungeons and Dragons type of style, the Demon Knights is an absolute wonderful story that is a great jumping on point for someone new to the universe. Or if that's another thing, that's your cup of tea. That's another one I wholeheartedly recommend to people. Just it's a standalone story, but there's gonna be some connections to the DCU because this is taking place in Arthurian society, which is the recent fall of Camelot, and we have the demons, sorcerers, and whatnot going on. It's a great story as well.
The reason why I didn't go there, and it's not, first of all, amen with everything you said, and why I didn't go to books like I'm enjoying, like Firestorm and Captain Atom and stuff like that. The way I might be mishearing what he's saying. I think he's wondering if he should stay close to Batman or maybe explore some of these other characters that he's reading in the Justice League, kind of branching out of that. A Green Lantern book would be great too. Green Lantern.
Oh yeah.
Or Green Lantern Corps. I guess. I think before I would push him into that, though, not because I adore the Green Lantern world. All 3 of those books I think are terrific, but I think that's just it. I don't know that I would put him in that yet. I would say explore like an Aquaman, a Wonder Woman, or one of the Bat titles to kind of branch outward from there. I think versus throwing him over into a different avenue. The Flash is really good.
Yes.
So that's another one.
Flash is telling some good stories right now, and it's funny because Aquaman would be a book I would recommend to somebody because they're really bringing back and rebuilding who the character is. So this preconceived notion we may have of him is being tested and tweaked and changed, and we are seeing that he is a cool superhero.
Yeah. But the Flash, the same thing. That book's just plain fun. I love the detective story going on in there. So I'm gonna limit it to that. I'm gonna stick to these. I'm gonna stick to 3 Bat Family recommendations. So I'm going to go to Batgirl, Batwoman, Nightwing, if you want to stick in the Bat Family. And I'm leaving those recommendations as far as saying, take a look at those and what character out of those is maybe one that you're like more leaning towards trying. So I think I would give either of those 3 multiple choices and say you can't go wrong with either of those 3 books if you want to stick in the Bat Family, because that was one of the options he gave. Action Comics I would throw as a high up there of, for one of your 2 titles. You really want to consider giving that a shot if you're reading Justice League, because I think, he's reading Batman right now, so he's got his Batman fix. He's reading Justice League. The Superman's almost the other end of the spectrum, in Action Comics, and really giving kind of an overview of how this universe got started. I really think it sets the tone for this universe, what's going on in Superman right now. So he really should be reading Action Comics. I keep throwing Superman. Action Comics is the title you want. And then if you don't want to go the Batman route and you want to do that branching out thing you were mentioning, I would go to either Aquaman, Wonder Woman, or The Flash. And I would say any of those 3 to stay. And I'm trying to stay in the Justice League wheelhouse because it sounds like he's trying to branch out from there to kind of take a different look at the universe, maybe from those characters. And please call back if I'm misreading you. And I would recommend any of those 3 titles. And echoing Jim's Demon Knight recommendation, but I'm not sure, what kind of parameters he wants to stay within. And I would say those 3 characters, though, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, all have top-tier titles right now that are interesting, and those are all characters that are going to be featured in his Justice League book. So I'm wondering if maybe it would be fun to read more stories with some of those characters in Justice League first, and then if he finds that he's liking those, he can use that as a further jump-out point from there. Because this is a guy who, hasn't read them before, the comics. So I'm wondering if maybe, to give him a foundation, kind of a contained area to kind of branch out from, might lead to him branching out to other books outside of that, versus my caution with Demon Knights is we're really throwing him in a very different direction with no connection to the books that he's currently reading.
True.
So,
and I'd co-sign those recommendations that you're throwing out there, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Because we got a guy who's liking, I guess what I'm saying is I'm hearing a guy who's really liking where he's at right now with these books. So I would say branching out from where he's currently at versus throwing him way somewhere else might be a way to go. That's how I would do it if it was a friend of mine who I knew was enjoying something. I wouldn't throw him to something drastically different right now without building a foundation first. Unless he said to me, hey, I love fantasy. So your recommendation, Demon Knights you can't go wrong with, but I didn't hear that in the phone call, so that would be something, that would be a great thing. Call back with some genres you like, and we'll throw you a whole bunch of stuff. But I'd like to stay contained, and I stick with those recommendations. Cool call. I actually really like that. This is a guy who's calling who, and listened to 4 of our episodes and hasn't been reading comics before. So I like that this is a guy who the New 52 caught. That's cool. I like hearing that story. So thanks for calling.
Now I can get out of here.
Jim, don't kill me for this. Who is the creative team on Action Comics number 3?
The writer is Grant Morrison. We have pencils by Rags Morales and Gene Ha. Inks by Rick Bryan and Gene Ha. Colors by Brad Anderson and Art Lyon. Letterer Patrick Brosseau. And the covers by Rags Morales, Brad Anderson, with a variant cover by Gene Ha and Art Lyon. The associate editor is Will Moss, and the editor is Matt Idelson. And, of course, Superman was created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster.
And what great covers those were.
Oh.
Both of them. I mean, it's like, yes. Whoa. From a Kryptonian cover with Superman kind of looking in on it to... it almost looks like he's looking into a bottled city, as he's kind of looking. I mean, and it's got it actually looks like kind of the Fortress of Solitude thing going on as well there with, obviously the Kryptonian reference. But then, back to what we were talking about with social commentary, this is clearly how people feel about it, with alien-free world, Earth for Earthlings throwing bottles at this poor guy. The courage of Superman, to continue on and persevere. I mean, well... we'll go into that as this goes on. Is something I really am digging this book. This is a book, if I had it to do over again and I did our top 5 list again, there's no way this book would not make it into my top 5. I cannot drop Action Comics. This would be on a, honestly, this would be on a very, if I had to cut down to less than 5, this book would be a major contender. It's that good. The art quality, you gotta remember, we got 2 creative teams, 2 art teams going on in this book who I just thought gelled together immensely. You've got the majesty of Krypton and the high tech going on there, but it blended seamlessly, I thought, which is really just, it tells you how high a quality both creative teams are into the Clark Kent sequences. We've been fortunate enough to have Gene Ha and Art Lyon on the show before, Art Lyon in particular many times, and how do you step up your game so much every single time that you start onto a project? I just don't know. This opening page where we see the baby and really the lights in his eyes and the sense of wonder, that's what, see, Superman to me, the best of Superman. Why do I always go back to the Donner film? Why does everybody do that? It's that film created a sense of wonder. This book in issue 3, and I think it's why I'm gaga right now. I know we were going to wait to go back to books because of the fact that we want to hit on every single book. I could not wait to go back to this one again because I feel that my viewpoint on this book has just grown. My affection for this book, this sense of wonder of this baby right here. I feel like this baby. I feel like Kal-El in this segment. I'm like, through the whole time when I was reading, I'm like, ah! I really did. Like the twinkle in his eye, that was visually and storytelling-wise. Oh my gosh. Did these creative teams nail it? Both art teams. The writing, everything. This is like perfection. I can't, I mean, yeah, I liked it.
I'm a little confused. You're kind of on the fence there, Sean. What are you thinking? Did you enjoy this?
I'm thinking, but zapped.
Oh yeah, and I tell you, this was one of those issues. And when we talked about going back to this, I so wanted to because of the artwork on this. Yeah. I'm normally the big story guy, and the story's being told. And this is a great story being told. Don't get me wrong in any way, shape, or form. I love the story that they're telling here, but these art sequences just had me going, "Oh my god!" And the funny thing is, when my first read through, I didn't really pay attention to the creative team. I was so caught in the story. I'm just reading it. And I'm thinking at the end, going, "Wow, that was a really cool job that the team." Because I was thinking it was just one art team throughout this whole thing, and thinking that they adjusted their style just enough to give it a different look, but it still had that same feel, that same vibe. I was like, "Oh wow!" And then I went back through and I read. I'm like, "Oh my god, there's multiple art teams." Oh, wow. And that just even took it over because that was a great great creative teams working together to put out something that it had a different look, a different feel, a different vibe, but there was still that same connection. And I love that. And I was just completely went back through in the second read through, appreciated it even more, especially all the detail of Krypton, all the wonder of Krypton, all just this, what is this great planet has had me going. Dude, this is not a story, this is a story that's been told multiple times, and I still enjoyed it as if I was reading it for the first time.
Dude, look at the detail on that baby's face. You can trace his skull structure on there. I'm not kidding. Like the close-up of the eyes where he's going, ah! You can actually see around the eyes leading into the nose on both eyes. You can see skull structure there. Yeah. What the?
Oh, yeah.
How awesome is that? I mean, you can't get more realistic with a baby than that. I mean, that's awesome. Just tiny details. Like I'm with you. Like I looked back and looked through this book and just was drooling over just the artwork. Krypton is one of those things. This reminds me of, I was a huge fan of Byrne's Man of Steel. And the reason why I always go back to that on the show was I read Superman from flea markets when I was a kid. Batman was my guy, but even Batman, it was up until the 80s. In the 70s when I was a kid, it was, you got broken runs of everything. I had a subscription to Justice League. and because it had all the characters. But then, I would get broken runs of Batman, and you'd pick them up at like this CVS, this grocery store. So I wound up having a very complete Batman run along the line, but I didn't necessarily get them in the proper order when, as I was getting them. But Superman was one of those characters I always liked. And, I joke around, I say on the show many times, not even joking around, but I mean, I always say I'm a Batman guy, but that never meant that I didn't love and adore Superman, and I didn't read a lot of Superman. I read a lot of Silver Age-y Superman, through beat-up Silver Age comics that I got from flea markets as a kid. And, because my parents had a campground out in Pennsylvania. Not a campground. I mean, they had a campsite out in Pennsylvania. They didn't own the campground, but we would, camp out there every weekend during the summer. And my stepdad was big on going to flea markets. Well, flea markets for a comic fan, I don't know if they're the same way. I haven't gone in ages. But, yes, I love today to keep comics pristine and bagged and boarded and stuff like that. But I'm a reader, and if my choice would be to find a box of Mint comics, but I'm not going to shy away from, when I haven't read them yet, a box of beat-up comics.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about like a whole huge box of beat-up comics. I used to get like huge boxes of DC comics with characters I never read before. That's where a lot of my love for these characters come from. Just seeing through the years the progression of these characters. And that was from flea markets and stuff. And, my stepdad and, my mom were kind enough to take me to those places. And I got to read those comics that way. It was really kind of cool. It was funny, after I grew up, my stepdad still went to flea markets and grabbed comics and stuff there not for me, but, he started grabbing them just for, hoping that they'd be worth something for resale and stuff. But I don't know. This sense of wonder from Superman, like when Byrne took over and did the Man of Steel and revitalized and revamped it and made it modern for that day, he did that. He did some revitalization of Krypton, did some revitalization of Superman, of Lois, of Jimmy, of the whole, Perry, everybody, and the parents and everything. It all got kind of brought to that at that time today. This is what's happening now. I think it was really essential in this issue to introduce Krypton to me. For me, as a reader, this is what clicked for me. I was kind of seeing not just the Clark running around in the the jeans and the T-shirt and all that stuff, which I've been digging, but now seeing, okay, this expanded story of Superman still exists. A little different though. This is what that story's like, and we're getting to see their social commentary on there. Where people are gossiping, on the intelligent things of the day, the scientific facts, but reminding us that there's different guilds. And it goes all the way from talking about weather to, the actress's nude scenes in the upcoming The Fall of the House of Lore. The diversity of the conversations going there, I'm like, okay, it started to add like a depth to this world. And the fact that her family, Jor-El's a controversial figure. So her family is going to have very mixed feelings about Jor-El because Jor-El's apparent quote-unquote crazy that's going on right now would be something that for the family would be a bit of an embarrassment and they would have to try and recover from. Well, Lara, and I love her strength there, knows her husband, and she's like sitting there, trying to kind of defend him or at least dodge the topic whenever possible, which it's that awkward I love that the topic felt awkward. But when Jor-El comes a-calling saying, hey, get out of there, warn the others you got to leave now. This is Brainiac, right?
Yes. That's how I'm taking who's arriving. And again, a nice, cool version of Brainiac and twisting it around that I always saw Kryptonian society as being very cold. Well, now we're seeing that it's not. I kind of always compared it to Vulcan, in my head, where it was that same non-emotional, just very methodical, very, scientific, logic-oriented. But here we're seeing that the culture itself has variations and has depth to it. And it was only in a couple pages, and then we see this whole catastrophe happen, which apparently it looks like it's Brainiac taking City of Kandor, doing whatever he's doing with it. And I love seeing that, just going from the casual conversation to this massive energy to all the the excitement and craziness. She's like, run, don't look back, don't stop, run. And I love seeing that.
Look at Dad's suit and think about Superman's current suit.
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we're seeing where he kind of gets the idea from.
Yeah. No, I mean, it adds a lot more weight to what they're doing right now. This won me over, too. You know, I'm like, okay. Because, first of all, one thing I loved about Jor-El's suit right away, it reminded me of classic kind of, seeing Jor-El in cartoons and Silver Age comics straight on through to modern day, while at the same time, up in the ante a bit. It feels techy. It feels new. The weapon that he's carrying, it doesn't feel like outdated tech. It feels like, okay, what is that?
Yeah.
He feels like a scientist who's showing us something new that only alien tech can show us. And you cannot argue with that crypto.
Yes. I definitely, you know what? I liked the original crypto that we had before, and I was
Adora.
like, when I heard they were changing him, but does look like a cool crypto.
Well, and here's the funny thing. He looks tough and vicious and all that too, but there's a nobility.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a balance that's really important here because you don't want him to be this tough, edgy dog by itself. There's got to be a nobility there. Like, this is like a noble beast that, like, is going to be loyal to you and is going to stand by you. There's an intelligence to that animal that it was like, especially in the second page when you see him next to Jor-El there.
Yeah.
When you see him a little bit more relaxed to the situation, there is kind of a, more of an introspective look to him. I don't know. There was something really cool. I'm getting into, like, what's the dog thinking?
You know what? He's got a wolf quality to me, and that's something. The wolf is just a species of animal that just always is fascinating to me because they do have a social structure. They do have just a sense of community, and just there's been I've seen tons of just like National Geographic and the various animal channels and just very documentaries and whatnot on the wolf. And it's just a great creature. And I like seeing that Crypto's kind of more, to me, he's more, modeled off of that, persona as opposed to the modern day American canine.
Now, this is interesting, this whole cataloging thing that's going on, kind of going to the core of what Brainiac's all about, making sure that this scientific knowledge and, this species knowledge, core cultural knowledge that was there is not lost when the world's destroyed. It's an important setup because we're using Krypton now to set up things then that are going to be happening later in present day, or at least present day, the past in the book. Yeah. I really like this establishment of Brainiac. One of the things that I loved when Jeff Johns revamped Brainiac was the creep factor he added in. This added that creep factor in again. That it's people have no choice. They have no chance. It's very fast. It's their technology that's being turned to start overwhelming them, from out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's their world all of a sudden turning on them, as that technology starts adapting, because those things that's their machines.
Resistance is futile.
Yeah.
It's again, it's that kind of a cool Borg mentality, and I like just coming in. He's just taking what he needs, and there is no fighting it. There is no stopping it because it's not a typical invasion. It's the cataloging, it's the science, it's the collecting species and putting them under glass. It's funny because I want to see what exactly how these cities are now being stored. Is it being physically stored, or is it just being electronically stored in the system?
I don't know. And that's one of the things that I'm really digging about this series is that I want to know the answers to my questions about Brainiac. I love seeing the mother protecting her son. And, there's that mother who would want to protect her family, but her first duty is to her child, her son. She's rushing on ahead, following what Jor-El said. Her family's following her, but, it's, in the end, split seconds makes the decision into her and her son getting away. Imagine seeing your mother and sister go, it's because her sister, right? Was the other one?
Yeah.
Going through that. Being zapped by that, being cataloged. Now, okay, that we saw the development there, the shrinking of Kandor, right? Is that what we just saw there?
Well, I was thinking that because that was Kandor, and I'm thinking, but again, they could be doing things differently. instead of actually shrinking down the city and saving it that way, it could be like, Star Trek Transporter, where you break everything down electronically and send it, and then it reassembles it. I'm wondering if this Brainiac does it like that, where he breaks everything down from the physical to the electronical storage state.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if maybe we're going to get a different type of Brainiac style.
I don't know. But if not, does that leave open the possibility that Grandma and Aunt are still alive?
Yeah. If we have a shrunken city somewhere, then we got a chance of there's other Kryptonians out there that maybe Clark would one day be able to find.
I love that because he was there, he has nightmares of this.
Yeah.
He was a baby and all that, and he might not fully understand exactly what was going on around him, but he was there. He saw all this horrifying. And that's very true that a baby would witness something like that and see it. His sense, that he's over the shoulder. One thing I really love there, that's actually Mags Morales' art that's blended in to the art of Gene Hahn, Art Lion. It's the other creative team is underneath it. This is overlaid on top of that. And I really liked the way that was done because it added this sense that this is a dream, that he's going through. I really loved the layout of this page with that panel in the middle, seeing the other creative team. That's what I mean about the blending. That really, it didn't feel out of place. It felt cool. It added to this sense of a dream, world, and the way the panels were designed and laid out, I thought was just something, kind of enveloping it. I just loved it. I just thought that was just really, a cool opening. Krypton should feel like one of those places you want to see visually. You want to see, and I want to go and walk around on Krypton. I'm planning my vacation long before this, but it's one of those places that those cool geeky, hey man, I'm walking around on Krypton.
It's got to have that, that the foreign alien, really sweet type of adventure type of feel when you're there. It can't feel like, downtown, even New York City is a great city, but it's got to be a step above New York City. It's got to be something special. And they really captured just the couple pages they showed us. They gave us this great, I'm sitting there going, I wish we could get a book on Krypton. I wish we could get a story on Krypton and see all the facets that was Kryptonian society.
What would being on Krypton do to a human? They have superpowers in our world. What would that do to us? Would I be dopier?
That's almost impossible, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. I guess we could find out, right? Yeah, I went there on purpose. That'd be funny.
Let me just say,
I opened the door and let you in. But no, it's kind of funny. This, I got to tell you, telling where the book, now we're back to the regular creative team, or the regular art team. We're seeing this sequence where Cal's beat up after last issue.
Yeah.
And this sequence of events where he's shoving his clothes into the bag read so differently the second time through. Where it's his landlady who's really trying to kind of look out for him. And I like her because I don't feel like she's kind of nosy and stuff like that, but I do feel like her heart's in the right place. Well, actually, we see her heart's in the right place.
Yeah.
Because he's being investigated in these moments. And, because obviously he's made the wrong kind of enemies and there's powerful people. But that sequence where she's like, all I know is Clark's a decent, quiet young man who pays his bills. She's defending him at the court, just keeping her. I loved her because she's keeping her mouth shut, staying out of it, defending, being a character witness. But also she saw the suit.
Yeah.
Right in that sequence, she saw the suit. Recognize that, oh my gosh, if they see this poor kid who I know is a good guy is done for. She knows Clark at his core. Knowing this guy's Superman, she knows, okay, if this guy's running around and doing this, there's got to be a good reason. He's got to be doing it for the right reasons. The undertones there, that backstory with her going on there, I would love to reread this whole issue flipped around from her perspective, following how her chain of events happened, what's going on in her thought process. That's how well developed that character is. I actually care what she's doing.
Yeah, this was a definite second read-through. This whole sequence completely different because you see her looking down, seeing that the bag is slightly open, and then the next time we see her, she's standing with her arm behind her back. Never noticed that before, but that's actually where she's got the suit in her hand, and that's where she's hiding it. I thought that was a cool sequence because, the parts of the panel that we don't see is her bending down really quick and grabbing it, and then hiding it behind. So the police, when they open the bag, when they look in it, they don't see the costume. I was like, oh my God, that is awesome. It was something that I completely missed as I was reading it because I'm focused on the cops. I'm focused on the conversation. I'm focused on the overall artwork. Just that little subtle of her just slightly bent over looking into the bag. And then the next scene where her one arm's behind her back. It was just like, wow.
This whole sequence where he's being grilled and Clark's trying to defend himself and, his life and what he's doing and his right to be, an agent of the press and doing all these things. This is a sign that he's getting too close. And, them digging to the point where they're making comments on the fact that he still doesn't even own a TV.
Yeah.
So we know now this is a regular occurrence with this guy. He constantly is being brutalized here. So this is a Clark Kent who really, I like this development of a Clark Kent who is like this quirky, underground, trying to get the hard, truthful news out there kind of guy. This is kind of the morals of the Kansas farm boy that we always knew, but seeing it come alive in his reporter's instinct. Like I like that this emphasis on the Daily Planet reporter, or the Daily Star in this case. But I mean, you know what I mean? The guy who's like, let's get the truth out there. This was some exciting stuff I loved in shows like Smallville. When they explored like the Smallville, newspaper from the high school straight on through to the Daily Planet when they started kicking in there. It is about the journalism aspect of it and getting the truth out there. And what that's going to look like in this society is really important. Why does it matter? But I love when she reveals, so what's all this this about that you're up from outer space?
The look on his face is absolutely wonderful.
The look on her face.
Well, her face, she's got that sweet kind of thing, but that look on his face, I laughed out loud. I was like, this is outstanding.
She's like the new mother figure, like the new Ma Kent kind of figure, and I hope she sticks. I don't know if we're going to see her in present day, because we haven't yet, right?
Right. I don't believe so.
Yeah, so I don't know. I like that, he's got that kind of, and maybe he connects to her because there's a reminder of Ma Kent in her. I don't know. I'm going to be curious to see, where that whole thing goes. But, we flash then to him and Jimmy Olsen, and this is one of the changes that they talked about where he and Jimmy are like immediately friends. They're, it's Clark Kent's best friend, Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah.
Not Superman's friend, Jimmy Olsen, which is an interesting little twist. And I like that relationship because Jimmy actually is more competent because of that. He's actually offering, some opportunities to Clark saying, hey, you got this Glenn Morgan guy breathing down your neck and, Perry is trying to give you a door here, buddy. Come on in. Come on, over here, get safe, get a good job, where you're protected and that type of thing. But Clark's all about, hey, this guy's throwing Superman under the bus to try and hide his own faults. And, we see this very often in society nowadays where throughout our media and politics and things like that, things are thrown in our face as smoke screens. So we don't start asking questions about the deeper issues that are going on out there and how to resolve those, and I love seeing, because this is a very contemporary thing, using the media as a way to totally be able to operate the way that he does, because nobody's paying attention right now because they're more interested in Superman. They're more interested in these alien threats. This starts here. The alien threat fear starts right here. And I love that.
Oh, big time, big time. And it's, these couple pages of just this really cool dialogue between two friends. And, you see that just the interaction, the equal, the peers, the strength of Jimmy Olsen is something that I really, really am loving about this. But I like the fact that Clark isn't immediately with the Daily Planet. I was one of those guys who, when this was first coming out, saying, you can't have Clark not being in the Daily Planet. Come on, you can't have Lois and Clark together. And I was throwing out all the things that you can't do, and they're doing it, and I'm enjoying it. And because it's actually the story's being told, the story makes sense. You see Clark with his loyalty. He's not going to just, Mr. Taylor from the Star because I owe him. This is somebody who gave me a shot when nobody else will. With the Daily Planet, hey, Perry White is owned by Glenn Morgan. That's, the problem right there. And I loved seeing that Clark isn't immediately in the Daily Planet. Clark is the rebel. He's a little bit of the troublemaker, if you will. And it's just a really cool spot to see Clark Kent in. And I know after this story arc, we're going to jump back into modern day and present day at Superman. I wouldn't mind them spending more time in the past.
He doesn't own Perry White, though.
Well, we know that, but Clark doesn't.
Yeah, because Clark's already been talking to Perry White. Icarus.
Oh, okay.
I think Icarus is Perry White.
You know what? Probably.
I think that's why Perry White's trying to move Clark into the fold. He's trying to move him in with Lois and Jimmy, and I think Perry White's trying to do his own little song and dance there. Because I do think I can't imagine Morrison avoiding this. I think Perry White's a true journalist, and I can't imagine Perry White being okay with this. But Perry White can't come out as Perry White and do this, so to have Clark do it?
Yeah. He needs the truth to get out there, and
I might be wrong, but I mean, I'm thinking that Perry White is Icarus.
I'm actually in agreement with you. Part of me was thinking maybe Icarus could have been Lois, with her hands, but Lois wouldn't give away a story.
We don't know if it's a male or female yet, do we?
Well, yeah. We don't know anything of that, but I was thinking it could be her, but she wouldn't give away a story like that, even if the boss would, suppress it. I like the idea of Perry being Icarus.
And he calls him Kent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's traditionally we've known Perry to call him Kent. I guess those were clues I was looking at. I'm like, that isn't a throwaway. Kent, I've missed you. What's up? I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I agree with you. If we find out it's a female, it's definitely Lois.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. Go ahead.
Superman saving the little kitty, saving the little girl, and then everything turns against him on it. That, for me, was a great panel, just a great statement of our society. Here's a man who saved this little girl from being hit by a truck, and he's the bad guy.
Well, and Glenn Morgan with the whole shelter thing. Yeah. Taking these people and really basically manipulating them by giving them kind of, jobs or money or whatever he did. He bought them. He bought them to turn on Superman. That was an interesting turn of events there. Because it's that smear campaign that's got these people, when he saved a kitty. And actually, saved the girl from being hit by the truck.
Yeah.
Wait, forget about the doggone kitty. Although I love the kitty wrapped around his arm all scared.
Yeah.
But forget about the saving the kitty part. He actually stopped a truck from hitting the girl. And my favorite panel is that last one. Ma, Pa, I'm so sorry. I tried. You see the boots and the shirt in the garbage can. It's the cape in the suitcase, right?
Yeah.
He's dejected at this point and given up. But that hasn't stopped him. See, this is Clark Kent to me. He's not done finding the truth. He might be done as Superman, and this is, where he's like, I got to walk away as Superman right now, but he's not done as Clark Kent trying to get the information from, like, Mr. Tide. Stem the tide. Using robots to, try to steal jobs and all that is just, which is a very contemporary thing nowadays. People are very concerned about, with the electronic age, what does that mean for jobs?
We see that in factories nowadays,
yeah.
Where what was a factory floor of 400 workers is now like half a dozen because everything's being done automatically. Everything's being done robotically. You just need an occasional human, to tweak something or fix something or, change here. And I loved seeing how when he came in, Clark's there to ask the real questions. He's not there for a fluff piece. He's not there to make the guy, sound like he's a great humanitarian. He's there to ask the truth, expose the truth, and that is, the foundation, the core of who Clark Kent, the reporter, is. And I love seeing that. And I love seeing the guy get mad at him, saying, "Hey, what's going on here? I thought you're going to be like the other reporters, and just ask me the softball questions." I thought that was a cool thing, and then have Lois and Jimmy show up at the same time. I was like, oh, okay.
I love that other reporters thing, though.
Yeah.
Because, it's, again, is Icarus giving them the same information?
Well, I'm thinking Perry assigned... now that I'm thinking Icarus is Perry,
Right.
Perry assigns Lois to go there.
Right.
And then tells Clark, hey, make sure you go there as well.
Because he's trying to bring them all. He was trying to bring them all together to begin with.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm convinced it's Perry.
Yes.
Then the robots.
I am now.
The robots come to life, and this whole bit with Corbin and Metallo, and I love it's Metal Zero Metallo.
Yeah.
I like how the name was even brought up. This whole bit where Brainiac takes over and makes like Metallo his agent on Earth is kind of interesting. So we don't actually see Brainiac here, or what Brainiac looks like. We just see Brainiac using tech to take over a human being.
Yeah, we saw the initial spots of Brainiac at that robot factory, which I like the fact that Clark hears the sound, the signal. That he and it's like. It's that superhuman pitch that none of them can hear, but he picks it up, and I'm betting he's probably going to remember it from when he was a childhood, so he'll know this is the same thing that destroyed Krypton.
Yeah, that was that Kryptonian baby talk thing. Like in the beginning. I like the whole bit with I like the tear running down Corbin's eye. Knowing you're losing your humanity there. Feeling it taking you, that to me is the ultimate violation, losing your mind, having your mind taken from you and knowing it. What's it doing to me? I'm a human being. Lois, I did it for, and then, that's it. He's gone. He's gone. I'm without a heart. The question is, how much of Corbin are we going to get back in this? Or what is that going to look like? I don't know. Are we going to get a Corbin
Will
back?
we ever get him back? Will we? Who knows what will happen to him? And, of course, Lex Luthor being there, he's offering, hey, let's make a deal.
Well, they already made a deal.
Oh.
He made a bargain with Brainiac
Yeah.
as long as he takes Superman. So, I don't know. This is just a super, super interesting book. And the more I'm reading Superman, just the more I'm into it. I got to tell you that, the page afterwards where it's like, say yes to the super, and you see like these are great blurbs as far as explaining that. Like, there's some great shots there of the super suit. Like, I'm starting to get into the super suit.
You're starting to, And it's funny because when they threw it out there, when they first, and everyone was complaining about it, they kept saying the same thing over again. It's explained in the story. Just read the story. It's explained. And they are explaining the suit. They are, and it's winning people over. I was, a fan from the beginning. So I like the look, and I'm enjoying it even more knowing, learning the history behind this, learning the why behind the suit.
Yeah. I'm going to say I do like the darker color tones on it, versus the lighter color tones.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I think it just, for that particular style of suit, it's working better for me. But I don't know. It's something that's it's really starting to grow on me.
Yeah.
Super suit. We're going to be talking about Teen Titans next, and Superboy is one of those characters that's become interesting to me because I wasn't sure what to make of the change with Superboy. Going back to the beginning, because I've liked so much of Connell's, Connor Kent's development, that to take that back to ground zero, I wasn't too sure about, and we'll talk about that when we talk about Titans, actually, so I'll save some of my comments for there.
Great molecules! They're programming the computers for a chain reaction to blow up that atomic pile!
Hey, Sean and Jim, it's Bobby C. again. Just to follow up slightly about Green Lantern issue 2, wondering about Parallax and Hal. And one thing about learning about Parallax is you have to wonder how Hal Jordan would have reacted to Coast City blowing up if he hadn't been possessed by Parallax at the time. And also in thinking about how Sinestro's thing that eventually got him kicked out of the Green Lantern Corps, presumably with him taking over Korugar for its own good to protect it. But when Hal was possessed by Parallax, his thing was never, I have to take over Earth for its own good. His thing seemed to be, I'm going to make everything better. I mean, even most of Parallax's dialogue when talking to other superheroes was, I wanted to make things better, and somehow none of you ever understood that. So it's just a minor thing with, Parallax, Hal, and Sinestro, and how, even though, we didn't supposedly know that Parallax was possessing Hal at the time. Okay, just a quick addition to my last call. Bye.
That was actually explored in Star Wars. The whole idea that the Sith, because they were selfish, they made the world better for them, the way that they saw it better. The big danger when you get that kind of power and you start playing Puppet Master is it better for everyone or is it better for you? And that's when the line starts getting crossed. Hal started deciding to make, because of Parallax, to make the world better for him, to recreate the world and bring the world back for him. Where do you stop with that, though? He was willing to destroy others to get the power to make his world better the way that he wanted to. So how is death and destruction okay to gather power? To do that. You destroy the core to do that. That was the real problem with what Hal did. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And it wasn't Hal, it was Parallax. But, in the original story premise, that was, I got the Star Wars Complete Saga, and I've been watching some of the extras, and one of them was they were sitting around Skywalker Ranch, in more modern day, and Lucas was explaining the Force, and, the idea of the light side and the dark side, and the Jedi versus the Sith, and that was the whole premise with the Sith. The Jedi, if they had Hal's power, would be very content to go around and, make things better for others, saving them, not doing it for something in return, for something of value. Just knowing that they were making things better for others by saving them was enough, there wasn't a material worth, a material value, something in return for it. The Sith, on the other hand, they're trying to make the world better for them. And searching for that. And he said that in the case of Anakin and the Emperor, it became a quest for power. In Anakin's case, he was so afraid to let go of those that he loved that he wanted to keep them living forever along with him, to chase back death. And he was willing to destroy everything to gain that power. So Hal was willing to do the same thing. It's actually an interesting kind of parallel. Hal and Anakin, when he was Parallax, he was possessed by the dark side.
It's funny, when you first started talking, I actually thought that Green Lantern's story arc had been called Star Wars. And I was sitting there going, really? They would actually go with that name? You get the whole Lucas thing? I'm surprised they get. And as you're initially talking, I'm thinking all this stuff like, wow, how'd they get that through? I wouldn't think Lucas would sign off at it then, but you're actually talking the real Star Wars.
Yeah, no. And only because it's so fresh in my head, because I've been watching this Complete Saga, and, it was Luke. It's really more so than the actual movies. It was Lucas's explanation. He was sitting it was a room at Skywalker Ranch, and they were sitting there talking about light side and dark side and stuff like that. And it made me think about what Parallax actually ended up doing to Hal, or how corrupted Hal became in that story, because it was that quest to bring back to life all of those lives that were lost, because that was a hole in Hal, because of it. And it was Hal was bringing them back, for. Yes, there's a certain nobility to it, but there's also a certain selfishness to what he was doing. And I don't know. That's. At what point in time is it okay to start killing other people to accomplish a goal that's noble on the other side of it? It's not. That's where the line was crossed. So there is some similarities to it. I don't know. It's kind of fun. It's interesting to take a look at, as Green Lantern's progressing along, what is in canon and what is not. And what did Parallax look like for Hal's perspective? I'm sure it's a lot more of Parallax now. There is no gray area as far as what did that to Hal. But I don't know. With Coast City thing, I would love to see. I'm with you. We mentioned this earlier when we were discussing it. I would like to gradually know which of those things are in canon and how. But I'm content to wait until the authors are ready to use it and to bring it in a way that makes sense. I don't want it something. I don't necessarily want a DC Bible right now. Because I think that goes back to defeating the whole purpose why they did this. Now you're limiting the creators to saying, well, you have to follow this 12-issue maxi series we just put out. I don't know that makes sense. That maxi series should really be crafted. If they do something like that, the events should be pulled directly from what the new creators are doing with these books to establish that continuity.
Agree. Yeah, it's weird. When you start thinking Hal Jordan, Parallax, motivation behind action, it's that whole. I said it earlier. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, and Parallax used that fear, used the human weakness, if you will, to get Hal to do what he wanted. And it's a manipulation, but it is also the fall of Hal Jordan, of the fall of his humanity. And I kind of see that same type of issues and or problems that Sinestro has.
Yeah, amen. I totally agree.
Hey guys, this is Seth. Seth Brown. I've listened for a long time, but never really called in, I don't think. But, I just wanted to comment on the whole JLI. So I get my comics about a month behind, so this may have already been addressed or, answered or whatever, but I was listening to your late September episode of JLI, wondering, okay, so why is Booster being put in charge? Why does Batman trust him so much? What does he see? Because in the past, Booster's been kind of the goofy guy and kind of the loser, the guy looking for all the sponsors and wanting the money and looking out for the glory. And I got to thinking, okay, well, in the previous continuity, I suppose, in the Time Traveler, he'd proven to Batman that he did a good job. Well, then he went through Flashpoint, lost his memory, all that kind of stuff, and wound up in the end of time. So I was wondering, did that happen? And does Batman remember that having happened? But Booster doesn't because he lost his memory. So just something to think about, and maybe that leads up into a Booster being the greatest hero no one ever knew again. I really kind of like that. I like time travel stuff going on. So if that happened, that'd be great. Anyway, just something to think about. All right, love the show, guys. Thanks. Bye.
First of all, I totally agree with him. That would be cool. But I don't think anyone remembers anything from what I'm hearing from all the. So, I mean, as he was saying it, I'm like, wow, that does sound really cool. I just don't think that's the case. Only because we've heard so many times it mentioned that nobody remembers anything, as far as that end of it goes. So I don't. But I will put a disclaimer on that. We really don't know how much of Booster's backstory is in place. Like, what has happened with Booster? So, going back to what he's saying, I do think, what is it that Batman sees? I don't think we know that yet. I don't think that's been established. Not totally. I think Batman does see something in him. Why does Batman see it? Because I'm taking this as being... Is this the first JLI team? Or
Yes.
did that stuff happen before?
No, I think this is the first incarnation of the JLI.
Okay.
And I think Booster is the greatest hero we've never heard of. I think if you read the JLI stuff, they don't do a lot of inner mental dialogue that Booster Gold is having. So we're just seeing this outside persona that he wants everyone to see, that he wants everybody to understand. But I think everything that convinced Batman with the pictures from the camera and the killing joke, seeing Booster do the multiple attempts to try to save Barbara, and just the various other stuff actually did occur, and that Batman does know that Booster is doing something beyond what the goofball image. And I think that's why Batman's trusting Booster to run this. But we as a reader don't know that they know yet. All we're seeing Booster as the way the rest of the world sees him, as this goofball. And we're not going to see and know about what Booster's done, until we actually start seeing some of his inner dialogue, and who knows when that'll come about.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to me. I actually like the idea that there's some of that evolution, because obviously some of the events that Booster went back to try and prevent wouldn't. His continuity would make your head hurt if you start really thinking about it. Because what did he go back and do? What didn't he go? If he did time travel, because we don't know that there's time travel with him, other than we know he came from the future to the past.
Right. I don't think that Booster knows the previous universe.
Okay.
That's been taken away from him. But I think in the 5 years that the hero's been around, Booster has done his thing where he's done the time travel, where he's, been more than just the materialistic goofball. I think, because if you remember when the last page of Booster's his monthly series, he's there, he lost his memory, but he's sitting in the nowhere, the point at the edge of time going, I need a new costume. The very next time we see him, he has a new costume. I think there's that same time-traveling Booster did occur, and he's just concealing it now.
Okay. So here's the question then. If he doesn't remember any of that stuff, because I'm wondering the issue is, does he remember, how little does he remember?
I think
does he remember Rip Hunter is a big question mark right now. Because we haven't had Rip Hunter addressed.
Yeah. And he's an unknown factor right now. And I personally think during the 5 years that the universe has been in existence, Booster has done his thing, and maybe Rip has done his thing with Booster and helped teach him and kind of take him under the wing and make Booster the cool hero that we enjoy.
They addressed
we're not seeing it.
Jim, were you at the panel at New York where Rip Hunter was brought up?
Yes.
Okay.
And they said we haven't seen him yet, and that was all. They didn't give us any info.
Right. So I think there's a gray area there with Rip Hunter. I think we haven't seen him yet on purpose.
I think we haven't seen him, but I think he has existed.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I'm taking it, that Rip's been there, but Rip is keeping in, you think about if the universe is 5 years old, there's still plenty of time for Booster to go through that growth.
Right. Yeah, no, I'd prefer to think this is the evolved Booster that we've been seeing. So this is the Booster coming out of Brightest Day.
Yes.
From Generation Lost. Generation Lost happened? Well, I don't know. With Max Lord. I don't know because we've seen Max Lord and OMAC.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I don't know. We'll find out what's what there. I think that's one of those gray areas.
Again, think about Max Lord. Wonder Woman's the big story there. Did she not kill him? It's...
Is the one in OMAC the same Max Lord that we always have known from the past? Or is this a new Max Lord? When does OMAC take place?
Yeah. Is the Max Lord in OMAC the Max Lord at the end of Brightest Day? The end of the Generation Lost?
I don't know. That to me is an intriguing question. Is what's going on with that. See, these are things that... Do you feel like you need to know the answer to these things right now? Because I don't.
I don't now, but it's because I let go and I released just some of my neuroses and some of my personal I got to know this, I got to know that. I was so... When the universe was first being reborn, I had all those thoughts going through my head, and I had to sit back, mellow out, relax, say... In time, all will be known. All will be well. Just relax. And that, when I tell myself that, when I relax, calm down, I enjoy what I'm reading so much more.
Well, see, I guess I was one of the people, and first of all, I will totally, I'm not going to deny this, I was one of the people on the show that was saying, I want another History of the DC Universe for this universe. Now I'm going to say the opposite. I don't want that right now. Because I get what they're like. I'm listening more and more to what they're doing, and I'm seeing it in practice here. Like this whole Max Lord stuff. When it's time for us to find out if there is a reason for us to find that out, let the creators tell us in a story. You know what I mean? Instead of just an isolated paragraph. Hey, this is what's going on. This is Max Lord's history, and here's his timeline. Da, da, da. Let us live that timeline. Let us see that timeline. Let us have it brought to light in a way that makes sense in the story. They've got a universe here that's in its infancy, where they can fill in all these blanks from the present day back as they need to, and I think that is a good way to do it. I'm into this, So it's that fluid nature of this right now makes sense.
Amen.
Hi, Sean and Jim. It's Rob McIntyre from the UK and the blog A Bit Too Old for Comics. I just thought I'd give you my thoughts on the New 52. From a long-time comic reader, I was very, very concerned about the change, but I must say I've embraced it, probably a little bit more than I should have done, but it's been absolutely fantastic. I've loved everything about it. Originally, when they were first solicited, I was going to get around about 15 comics, which was a fast saving for me, to be fair. There were mainly the Batman comics and the Lantern comics, and also the anthology title, which I was quite looking forward to. But on the first weekend, I went to the local comic shop when the comics were released. I found out that they were doing a bit of a promotion where you bought every five comics you bought, you got one free. The great thing about the promotion is that you could do it over time. So you could buy 3 1 week and 2 another and still get one free. And they were also running it for 3 months, so to the 31st of December, so people got a chance to invest in the comics. So that really tipped me over the edge. And I went and got loads, and I went from 15 to, I think, 34 at the end of it. But to be honest, I've not regretted it. The Batman and the Lantern titles have been absolutely fantastic. The only Lantern title I had a slight reservation was Red Lantern, but the second issue swayed me on that one. Reading the first and the second issue together changed my mind, so I was great on that. Legion Lost, I was a little bit not sure of, mainly because I didn't know the characters that well, and I found it a little confusing, and the references to the Flashpoint break wall. I thought that maybe referred to something that happened in previous issues. But I'm willing to give that one a go because it looks interesting. I've heard a lot of good things about Legion, so I'm going to stick with that one. But the one book that I will be dropping straight away is Voodoo. I didn't like it at all. It wasn't my cup of tea. I found it very, very over-sexualized. I know it's hard not to do that if it's set in a strip club, but the scene with the girl and the agent, I just think went a little bit too far for my taste. Funny thing is, if it had been a Vertigo book, I might not have been thinking the same. But with having 52 on, I wasn't happy with it at all. So I will be dropping that one book. But I'd like to give special mention to All-Star Western, which is brilliant. I've been reading Jonah Hex in trade, but I decided to pick this one up. So at the moment I'm getting a bit of double Hex because I'm reading trade and his monthly series, and that's fantastic. Aquaman was an absolute winner. I had doubts whether Aquaman could actually run his own title, but any doubts I had disappeared when I read the book. And I actually think the first page you see him where he stood in that superhero style pose, if that were a big poster, I want that on my wall. Brilliant. I Vampire, brilliant. Loved I Vampire. Loved Frankenstein, Agent of Shade. That's a great book. Action Comics. I found Superman a little bit one-dimensional over the years, but Action Comics brings it to an all new level. I'm looking forward to that one every month. But the big one for me that's really blew my mind was Green Arrow. I've never really read any Green Arrow books, but I was a fan of the character in Smallville, so when this new book came out, I decided to give it a go, maybe thinking to myself, it might have a little bit of the Smallville character in it. Not to say that's what I wanted, but I thought there might be some slight crossover with it, and for me it did have that. He had the swagger and the quick quip and the fast lip that he seems to do in the Smallville. I like that. He also has his own version of the Watchtower, where the girl and the and the guy helping him. So I like that. And to me, this has been the find of 52. Never read Green Arrow. Absolutely love it. I read the second issue last night, and actually, when I got to the end of the issue, I thought, that can't be it. There's got to be more pages. I ended up counting the pages to see I've been shortchanged because it went that quick. And that is a sign of a fantastic book. So I'm loving that. I'm very happy. The bank manager's not probably as happy as I am, but there it goes. And I'm also reading Superman, Supergirl, and Demon Knights on digital, mostly because the Superman and Supergirl had sold out in the comic shop. So I went digital with those. And Demon Knights, I decided to go digital after hearing you guys review it. But again, I'm liking the digital. I like to have the paper in my hands, but when I travel around, which I do in my job a little bit, it gives me something to read and look back on. So, loving 52, embracing digital slightly, but very, very happy comic reader. And carry on, you guys. You're doing a great job, and speak to you soon. Bye.
And his blog is toololforcomics.blogspot.com, and it's in the show notes. Rob has been a longtime friend of the show, and I wanted to make sure to shout out his blog. And a lot of what you just heard here is exactly what his blog is all about. I mean, it's really him writing like that. I don't know if have you had a chance to check out his blog, Jim?
I may have read it like once or twice, but not a regular reading.
Do yourself a favor if you're not. It's a fantastic blog. It's Mart. We've got our blog of OA. There's so many blogs that I'm starting to put up links to on the website. If I'm missing a blog for any of our listeners up there, I love seeing what anybody who's a friend of the show is doing. Please let me know. There's a lot of times where there'll be things I'll check out, and I'll forget to put a link up or something like that. Those links are actually important for me too as a reader, because I a lot of times will go to our website first because I want to make sure that I'm checking out the things that our friends are doing. So it's really important to me if you've got something, comic related that you think, or that you think will be related to anything for our listeners on the show that you want me to shout out. Just let us know. Shoot us an email, voicemail, something like that, and just say, hey, can you let people know about us? It's really kind of an important thing because we rely heavily on you guys shouting us out. So I'm always thrilled to have the opportunity to be able to do the same thing. And Rob's blog is another one of my favorite hits. It's actually, he posts a lot on our Facebook page when he has reviews up that are DC related. So if you are a member of our Facebook page, or if you haven't already joined up to it, I encourage anybody to please go ahead and post anything you want in our Facebook groups, on our show forum, anything that you want to cross-promote over there. Please use our site for that purposes, because, and a lot of the things that we're all interested in, we kind of, linked that way. I loved his thing where he was talking about, because I am finding this, we talked about Action Comics number 3 on this episode, and it's funny how some of these issues, some of these books are growing on me more as I'm reading 2 and 3 issues and getting really kind of an idea for the direction that the creators are going in with these titles. The Landscape, a title that before for me wasn't a top 5 or top 10 list book, is growing into that. I like that every month I feel like there's a shift between, this title was top 5 last month, this title was top 5 this month. I like that. I'm buying a lot of titles. I want to feel like that these writers are creating stories that have a build and a crescendo, and I'm just kind of like blown away by them. And then it's this other book before that I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my book that was in that spot, and look, now it's coming back up. It's like a racehorse. No, but I love that my comics are feeling like racehorses right now, where you've got one that's just coming out of the gate, you got another one that's clearly crossing the finish line, and we got some that are in the middle right now. And it's fun following the race because there's that momentum that you're constantly feeling, and it's I don't have any jockeys I want to punch out yet. It's like I want to follow them all. I'm rallying behind them all, which is kind of good. So that's something I'm really digging about the new 52. He does have a follow-up voicemail, which I don't know if we're going to get onto this episode, but there's one that's coming up where he follows up on Legion Lost. And, please feel free, listeners, to call in, follow up, and things like that. I air all voicemails, and, we try to get them in as timely as possible. But this is a great example of listen to that breath. Planned on doing, what did he say, 15, I think, initially? And he's up to, 34? Was that the number that he gave?
Outstanding.
That's more than double. But I love that it was this comic shop's doing a promotion. What a cool promotion that is.
Yeah, that's a neat idea. One of the ones I went to had if you buy 10 of the, at least 10 of the new titles, they gave you a gift certificate for back issues.
Cool. Yeah, I think promotions, comic shops make it exciting to come in, like DCB Service. Let's talk about this.
Yeah, let's.
It's when he's talking about digital. I'm paper again. I was buying them all digital, and I couldn't pass up DCB Service. Talk about promotions. DCB Service is doing that paper promotion at 50% off. How can I pass that up? I can't financially because I'm a reader. I want to read more books, and that really became the issue for me. It's not that I'm not buying digital, but I'm buying more paper than I'm buying digital right now because you can't beat the price point on the paper. And I want to read books. I want to read as much as possible. So I'm still getting like all the digital exclusives. Like they have the Arkham tie-ins for the game. I'm getting all those through the app and stuff like that. But I'm back to getting them digital again from our sponsor because that 50% off deal is just way too hard to pass up. Bagged and boarded, shipped to my door every week. It's like, all right, I'll go back to that. So I'm paper. Wait, and let's talk about it. Here's me. I'm constantly talking to I just care about reading them. I don't care about having, the complete set be the same. I have them digital now. I own them paper. When I say own them paper, I went all the way back to issue 1. I have first prints of issue 1, issue 2, issue 3, and now I've pre-ordered issue 4. Too funny.
You know what? I was loving that. I was laughing my head off.
I figured you'd get a kick. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's because of promotions like that. They're a sponsor of our show, and they're doing this great 50% off deal. And I was looking financially. I'm like, long term, digital, I can't, because of the show, I can't do the 30-day deal. They've got that 30-day at, they drop $1 off of each of the books. If I did that, I could stay digital and go that route because I do like reading them on the iPad. I really do. But the truth of the matter is, at 50% off, I got to look at how many more books I can be reading, especially now that more minis are coming out and things like that are supporting this line. And there's JSA on the horizon, and hardcovers are coming out like Batman Noel and stuff like that. I'm like, I've got to leave myself room in my budget to be able to get some of these cool things that I want to do. So I went back to paper. and I'm happily back with paper. So it's not a complaint at all.
And the funny thing is, I'm thinking about maybe doing a couple titles as a digital after this first story arc. Mm-hmm. So maybe I may go digital. I may try experiment with digitality.
Is that what it's called, digitality?
Well, it is to me.
New Jimism?
Yeah. Yeah. It's from the Senseiofwhatnot of Whatnot.
See, I'm not saying I'm not buying anything digital. There's a lot of comics I will still buy digital that I'm still using apps for. I still use the Comixology app. There's a number of titles I like following. There's a number of them that I like follow after the fact. Especially stuff outside of DC. That I'm like, okay, I'm done with all my DC reading for the month or for this week. What else can I read now? I'll go to the app a lot of times and pick that up. I'm enjoying things like Kevin Smith's Bionic Man, for example, because I'm a $6 million man junkie. So just to see a modern retelling of that has been kind of cool for me. There's a lot of books that I'm kind of jumping out there and grabbing, but that was one that all of a sudden I started reading that one. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. I'm enjoying. Dark Horse's Star Wars line is really solid. Their Buffy stuff, Buffy, Angel. The Angel and Faith series is. Are you reading that, Angel and Faith? Have you read that?
No,
yet?
I actually haven't been getting any of the Buffy Angel stuff anymore.
Wow, it's terrific.
Well, I've been so focused on the New 52 and just everything that I'm getting there that I'm like, you know what? I was planning on getting it in trade anyways, so I'll just wait till things calm down here and I got my groove going here, then I'll start pulling in trades and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah. And that stuff reads well in trades. I would recommend highly read season 8. And if you haven't read the whole... I don't think you read the whole thing of that, did you?
No, I didn't make it through the whole thing. And it's funny, I'd have to reread to see where stuff is at. And, I'm kind of confused right now where I'm at exactly on season 8, so...
Yeah, I would recommend reading season 8 because you could technically start off with Buffy and Faith. I mean, with Angel and Faith, and Buffy season 9. But you really kind of want to see they directly spin off of the conclusion of season 8.
Oh, okay.
So you could technically, it starts a brand new season, so you could technically just they give you the reveal of what actually happened and who Twilight is. The main villain of the whole thing, but yeah, I'm going off on a tangent right now. But that digitally, that's not digital yet, so I'm getting that paper. But there's a lot of Dark Horse stuff that I like. Their app, I like Comixology's app for a lot of stuff outside of DC. I'm getting some of my Vertigo titles on the Comixology app because like Sweet Tooth and that stuff switched over to that. Spaceman, that new Azzarello miniseries, that one I'm picking up on the app. So I'm not done with the app. It's just my paper for my main New 52 at 50% off. How do you pass that up?
You can't. It's a good deal.
No, it's crazy nuts. I mean, so yeah, I'm in. Which means now I'm probably indefinitely paper on those. Thank you, DCBService.com.
A scarlet costume ejects from his ring, and in a blur of motion, police scientist Barry Allen becomes the Flash.
Jim, our next book is going to be Teen Titans #2. Story by Scott Lobdell, pencils by Brett Booth, inks by Norm Rapmund, colors by Andrew Dahlhaus, cover by Booth, Rapmund, and Dahlhaus, letters by Carlos M. Mangual, assistant editor is Katie Kubert, editor is Bobby Chase. And this Teen Titans book, Jim, I got to tell you, with issue #2, I enjoyed issue #1. Red Robin was my heavy focus in issue #1. Are you finding that, like, when issue #2 or 3 comes out of a book, you're going back and rereading them just to kind of get the whole vibe of the whole thing? Like, I went back through and I reread issue 1 and 2 together in this after reading issue 2. And really am finding that I'm catching a lot more of what's going on in the book. I'm really digging a lot more. I'm getting into the characters. I'm into Kid Flash's whole thing. I'm into Superboy. This is starting to really grow on me. Where before, this is a book I was tremendously worried about. And it's really starting to grow on me. Tim is my foundation still. I feel this is Tim Drake's book, and everyone else is kind of revolving around him, which is a good thing, because if there's a linchpin latch-on character for me, it's Tim Drake. So, you can go ahead and mess with everybody else if you're going to, as long as you're giving me that foundation character. But I'm going to put a disclaimer on that. As much as I say messing around, I am starting to find certain elements about the characters that I liked before in these revamped versions. Bart feels like Bart. Yeah, he's obviously not Barry's grandson. Well, he's Bart Allen, right?
Yeah.
So what is his relationship?
I don't know yet. And that's something we got to wait and see exactly. We see the name as Bart Allen. So there's probably the connection. My guess is his story is probably the same, where he was from the future sent back to the past, but who knows in the end? We'll eventually find that out in this book. I'm confident in that, because they're laying down the characters. They're starting to give us information on each one of them. I think we're eventually going to get to Bart's past when the team starts gelling together. So as like this issue, we got to see we got to see a little bit more out of Cassie. We got to understand her a little bit. We got to see some of the new players that are going to be on the team, their backstory, and we're seeing parts of Bart's personality fleshed out in the first issue. Now in the second, we got a little bit more of him. I think as time goes on, we're going to get a detailed story of who and what Bart Allen is in this universe.
Am I the only one that liked the idea of not Flash? I am not Flash.
I think you are the only person who liked that idea.
I'm kidding.
So the mini Flash, every time I read it, I found myself doing the Dr. Evil mini-me, mini Flash.
I love how bored he is, being cooped up with his super speed and everything like that. That fits as kind of a this is definitely Bart. I mean, they got the behavior down pat. This is what I mean. I'm seeing what I've always loved about the character. So if you're going to revamp him, as long as at the core you understand who he is, we're getting that here with this guy. So we're giving him his own kind of identity, so to speak, but we're not forgetting what makes him cool. I love that he even drew it on his ball and chain, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, he put the little bolt in the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's it's literally all over the place. That's how much, he's so fast that there's obviously, it's not an issue of time. I like the calculating Superboy. This is a Superboy who, he has no relationship with these guys, what are his emotions? Does he have emotions? Or is it all about, what can put him in the position to actually earn his freedom? Does he actually believe he will earn his freedom?
I think he's realizing as the story's going to play out that he can't completely trust them, and they're going to tell him what they want, what he wants to hear, just to continue manipulating him. He knows they're not his friends; they are his jailer. But in his title, we also see that he doesn't really have that human emotional tie because he never had the human relationship. And I like seeing this Superboy very much feels like the Superboy in his series. And that was something I was really pleased to see.
Now, one of the things I really like, his costume here looks really cool. Like, I don't, is that growing on you?
Oh yeah, big time. Again, it's a different look. Completely, strange, and who knows when he gets his freedom, when he's with the Titans, when everything happens, maybe he'll go to a different look. But for now, one, this fits him. Two, this does look like a cool look, and it makes it for a good quote-unquote villain costume.
What happened to Cassie in her past that makes her so distant like this? Like, that makes her this thief who's stealing all these artifacts? What is this all about?
Well, my question was, did she actually steal it? Is she just saying that to Bart? Mm-hmm. I mean, to Tim. How do we? She's saying she
didn't. She didn't say that she did though, because he said some of this stuff looks authentic, but you'd have to have been stealing from archaeological digs and museums from around the world for years. That'd be crazy. How old is she?
I don't know, but I'm thinking back to when they're at the restaurant, and she gives the hey up here. And he's like, no, I'm looking at your wrists. What happened to those war bracelets? Why are they invisible now? And she gives that offhanded comic. No idea when I pinched him from the temple, I didn't take the stone tablet, instructions along with it. I'm thinking she didn't boost any of this stuff. This is probably, the Cassie in our universe was the mother was the archaeologist. I'm thinking we're getting a very similar story where she's the family from the archaeology, and that's where all this stuff is coming from. It's, not stuff that she's flat out quote unquote stolen, but it's stuff that has been discovered in digs and the various whatnot behind her.
Oh, wait, now I'm going the other route. I'm thinking she took them from her mother's archaeological digs, or using those skills. She's done that. I think she's a jet-setting kind of adventurer who's kind of never found like that responsibility or something like that. I don't know. I don't know that it's that simple, dude. I think she really did boost these things. Because wait, that'd be crazy, and she's like, yeah, crazy. I think that was a verification right there that she's nervous about broaching that topic any further. I think what Tim hit it spot on. See, I read that sequence as Tim like what he said was crazy. Actually, is what really happened.
Maybe she has a different aging than the rest of us.
Or just his whole life. Yet. But what I'm saying is her whole life, because of what you're saying with mom and archaeology, her whole life has been revolving. Or maybe something happened to mom and some of this stuff is legit from her digs. I don't know. Which could be a possibility too. Could she be keeping mom's identity secret? Maybe going off of what you said, maybe she didn't. Maybe she isn't a thief. Maybe she kept mom's identity secret. I don't know. See, there's that part of me. She got is that the Medusa shield behind Tim? This is like eye candy. Like, look behind Tim in that sequence, the next page where we see everything in the pretty colors. Next day, And look right behind him, over his shoulder. Is that the Medusa shield?
I don't think it's the Medusa shield. I think
Those are
it's just a
snakes?
shield it's a snake shield. I don't think, I think it's just, snakes are a common thread throughout a lot of the different stuff. I think it's just one of those shields that have multiple snakes drawn on it. I don't think it's the Medusa shield.
I don't know. Okay. Because that would kind of fit some of the stuff that she's been seeking. Because if you take a look at the artifacts, those don't look always like traditional artifacts. I mean, that's some crazy nutty stuff she's got hanging out in there.
Now the pink pony though, the pink unicorn, that does have me wondering what the heck's up with that. Think about it. Look at all the stuff around there. Why is that picture there?
Right.
It's the only one that doesn't fit. There's a T-Rex head over there. There's a bunch of spears. There's some statues and whatnot. Some, very, creepy type of stuff. We could possibly have a Medusa head. I don't know. And then we got this, pink pony, this pink unicorn with a rainbow.
And they don't give us much time to think about it because we're jumping into this whole Skitter thing.
Yeah.
With Claudia and stuff like. Wait a minute, is that a dude dressed up as Batgirl?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And of course, right next to him is Cassie standing there.
Yeah.
I didn't notice her the first time. It wasn't until she makes the comment later on. Oh yeah, like you didn't notice me in the clothing store, and I immediately went back a couple pages, like, oh, there she is, cool.
With the Wonder Girl top on, that was cool.
Yep.
Now I like this whole. Now this Skitter, I guess, is going to become a Titan, right?
Yeah, they're saying she's going to be one of the new characters they're creating for this universe and for this team. And I like this introduction to it, and I like how Tim figured out she was the only one who actually knew some information. And that, again, it's showing the detective. It's showing Tim Drake who he is. It's, he's trained by the Bat. He's the up-and-coming young detective. Everybody else described the Skitter as a thing. She's the only one who called it a her. She's the only one who had that, that personalization of it. He knew she was holding something back.
I like the whole nowhere thing. There's nowhere to go, nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. We're going to find you. And I want to know what the anagram stands for, because we haven't seen that yet, have we?
I don't believe so.
So I'm kind of curious to see what it actually stands for, because this is obviously a group that's been around. I really am. The wings thing is growing on me, which I thought I would hate it, and it's really starting to grow on me, especially now. I'm into his costume. I'm not usually into the over-belted look, where you've got a lot of belts and things like that. But considering this is a guy who we know uses tons of gadgets and things, it works. I'm into the whole thing. The outfit's really growing on me. And I actually like him being back in the domino-ish mask, in the Red Robin look. There's something about that that's working for me. So, it's the whole vibe and outfit, and it's funny how seeing it in practice has really opened that up on me. Because now this is the first issue where we've actually seen him in the costume, right? Last issue we saw him in did we see him in this in the last issue?
Yeah, it was just the wings deploy.
Yeah, but that was in the red jacket and the black pants, not this outfit. If you remember in issue 1.
Yeah, so this is the
first time we actually see it in the outfit.
The outfit, the full battle gear. And I think as time's going to go on, I think like with Bruce's outfits, we'll see personalizations and tweaks and changes to it. Which
I'm fine with. I think it's really cool. I'm getting into this whole thing.
Now, the one thing I'm trying to figure out is, how is he sticking to the wall? Because when he first meets up with this...
Magnets on the boots? Magnetic boots? Or there's actually... No. Take a look at the bottom of the boots when he's fighting those guys. There's actually... there's things jutting out of the boots, dude. Like when he's on that wall and he's kicking the guy. You hear the crack? Take a look at the bottom of the boots. There's spikes in them digging into the wall.
Oh, crud. I missed that. Yeah.
How neat is that?
Oh, that is cool.
Good detail.
And you can see it on the other foot that's still on the wall. You can really see the spikes in there. Oh, that's neat.
But you see the physical effect of the guy's face.
Yeah. You got the scrapes and... Oh, yeah.
I like these guys, these teleporting in each other, the brothers.
Yeah.
How they use each other as a teleportation conduit. They're like a jump point.
Yeah. Again, it's a new power that we've seen teleportation. We've seen like the weaknesses that teleportation would have, and that if you're jumping into a room where you don't see where you're jumping, well, here they're kind of eliminating that because you're going through the body. That that point is your guide. That point's your doorway, and that's where you can get a clean blind jump.
I like the whole Wonder Girl infatuation that Tim's got. Very pretty girl. She's strong. When I say strong, she's strong physically, but she's also, stands up for herself. She's not weak. There's something about her. She brings something to the table. You can see a partnership forming there between the two of them, where she brings something different that he doesn't. And there's an intelligence to her, which he respects. There's something, he's in awe of. She catches onto it too.
Yeah. Well, and you can kind of see her be afraid of that.
Yeah.
That kind of that in her house when they had that sort of that tenderish moment where she's like, "Hey, I didn't say this before, but thanks. You're a good guy." And he's just like, "Oh, good guy. Just one step above annoying kid brother."
But this now we're even thing that's going on there between the two of them. Look at the look on her face. There is something, some pain there. There's some sense of loss. I think that's driving. Like, is her mom still around? See, I'm guessing that the fact that mom was an archaeologist is in place, but there's some pain there that we don't know yet. And I think that's affecting why she's become a thief. Her backstory has changed somehow.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, definitely there's been some tweaks to it. So and that's something I do want to see, because you get these moments where it's that same Cassie we were used to, or same Wonder Girl we're used to, where she flies in for the save. She helps Tim out when he needed the help, and he was at a point where he's like, he was at his wit's end how he's going to deal with her. Cassie comes in, she deals with the problem, not exactly the way he would have wanted it to go down, but it's still an effective usage. So he's got to respect and understand that. And then just as you can tell, he's like, "Hey, we got a good teamwork going here." She's like, "Hey, lose my number. Don't call me." And you see, you're talking to her. She has got a great facial reaction, but Tim also has a great, kind of moment on his face as well.
He made some mention in this about the fastest variation of Teen Titans.
Yes.
Yeah, but this was the shortest incarnation of the Teen Titans ever. So this isn't the first Teen Titans.
Yeah, I think that's I don't know.
It isn't.
No, and there's been other indicators that in the Batwoman series, Plebe makes a comment how she was a Titan,
right?
So there's been other references to Teen Titans. I don't know.
I think this is the ground floor meeting of this group.
Yes, this is definitely the ground floor meeting of this group. This is the beginning of this version of the Teen Titans. But I think Dick Grayson did have a Teen Titans before this, but I don't know if they're going to kind of just pay no attention to the man behind the curtain and just let's move forward with this. And I don't know going forward what's going to happen in the DC universe, but when this story was written, they were thinking that this is the next incarnation of the Teen Titans.
Right, yeah. And taking out the John's run, right? That's been erased.
Yeah, John's run didn't happen.
What do you think of Solstice being behind the door? I immediately noticed I got giddy. I'm like, oh, cool, connection to the team. Because I liked her. I liked her introduction as a character, so I was glad to see that we're going to continue to have her. Because I honestly thought that we were done with her because she was part of that last team.
But this is a different Solstice, though.
What do you mean she's a different Solstice?
Well, it looks like maybe a different power set.
Well, but I'm saying it's obviously meant to be this universe's version of that character, though. I mean, like, it definitely was meant to be because there was a Solstice on the last team. This is Solstice. I mean, it might be a different power set, as far as we know. Or is that what they're doing to hold her in place?
Oh, yeah, that could be the jail holding her in place. But I thought on some of the previews...
says that light,
yeah,
which was Solstice's power, could it be whatever that material is that is covering her? See, it's cracking around her. Is she trying to fight her way out of it? Because it's cracking around her. So she's like, please help me. Or is it something they did to her? I don't know. We'll find out, dude. It's kind of an interesting thing. But I take it that this is meant to be this universe's version of Solstice. I don't think this is meant to be like kind of it's a coincidence that the name is Solstice.
Yeah, I don't know. That's, again, it's...
Wait, are you genuinely thinking it's a coincidence that her name is Solstice?
I was thinking that, yeah.
You gotta be kidding me. The last series just had Solstice in it.
I was just thinking they thought that's a cool name and like, hey, let's go with it.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me. And she just happens to have the same hair color and looks like background and everything. You're kidding, right? Really?
On, I could lie and say,
you're kidding, right?
Yeah, I'm just joking around with you. But I'll be honest with you. Up until this point in time when you just said it, I was just thinking this is a new character.
Please tell me you're kidding me.
I'm being serious here. I'll throw myself under the bus on this one. You know?
Like, I don't think there's any way. That's funny.
And you know what? I'm kicking myself as we're talking, going, Jim, you're an idiot. But I literally was just thinking, oh, okay, a brand new character. And I wasn't even thinking twice. Oh, yeah, they had a Solstice just 3 issues ago.
I'm getting into this book big time, though.
Yeah.
You know, it's a couple issues in now. The development of these characters is really working for me. This was a team I was extremely worried about because I liked the last run so much. But another successful revamp so far. You know, I'm each issue seems to be getting better. So.
Yeah, and the Bart escaping from his cell.
Yeah.
I like, not only just seeing the cool Flash stuff with using the speed, but I do like as soon as he got out, first thing he did, he went to the cell next to him with his buddy Danny to try to get him out. And we see it's an empty cell. And then as he's going, he sees the Solstice cell. He's like, hey, I can help this person. Let me see what I can do. It's the hero in Bart. It's that, the qualities that make Bart is something I'm enjoying. And I'm glad we didn't lose, we've got the quirks about Kid Flash. We got his quirks where he's constantly impatient. He's constantly thinking because he's thinking and moving so fast. But we do get the hero moment. We do get to see that there's a good kid there who wants to do right, who's not a glory hog, who's not out for fame or glory. He's out to be a hero. He's out to do the right thing. And I love seeing that.
We don't know what the name is on Danny's room, do we? Could he be Bunker? Because they're going through the team. Red Robin, Wonder Girl, Skitter, who we know from the sewer, Solstice, Kid Flash, and now Bunker. So Bunker's going to be the final member, right? Be here next issue as the final member's introduced, because who else is Bunker?
Yeah, I don't know.
So I wonder if that might be Danny.
But he's just like non-visible or blended in, or he was...
No. I'm not. We haven't seen Bunker.
Oh, okay.
But, I don't know.
See, because I was thinking Danny didn't exist. Danny was the powers that be, just the whole spying on the inmates. You pretend you're also an inmate to get information out of them, and just, that whole mental mind games they're playing with Bart to try to figure out what makes Bart tick. You introduce a quote-unquote prisoner next to him, and you two start talking because you have that bond together.
Well, I don't know. That's an interesting...
That's completely what I took Danny to be.
Yeah, I don't know. I have trouble arguing with that one because it could actually be the case. I don't know. Alrighty. Well, Teen Titans, I always say that you're a Teen Titans fan. That's just so not true. I've been reading Teen Titans since I was a kid, especially the Wolfman and Perez run straight on through. But, I liked the old, it's Robin. I mean, from the 60s. So this for me is very satisfying. And I maintain that Tim, you know what though? I'm getting into Wonder Girl. I'm not going to say anymore it's Tim Drake. I'm into Wonder Girl. She's becoming cool. I want to know her backstory. I'm getting into it. I need more time with Bart, but I'm encouraged by what I saw in issue 2 with Bart. So I'm not 100% there with Bart yet, but I'm leaning that way. Superboy, it's where he goes ultimately is going to make the ultimate decision, but I'm into him being the kind of big bad at the moment. What about you? Where are you at in this book?
Oh, I'm 100% in. And actually, all the characters. Tim, this is my Tim. This is Tim Drake. This is the guy the character that I absolutely loved and was crazy about, and I was sad to see him lose his own title. I'm like, okay, Teen Titans is where I can get Tim, and yes, I'm seeing Tim. Cassie, I'm 100% in on her. This is full-on... it's a different character. I don't know her backstory yet. I don't know everything about her, but I'm loving what they're showing me. And same thing with Superboy. There's this great connection between his title and this title, and it's the same character in each one. I can see, the character traits in the one, I see it clearly in the other, and vice versa. And that's something I needed for a universal feel. And Bart, I'm 100% in. This is Bart Allen. This is the Kid Flash that I know, and that, the Kid Flash who became my Flash. I was like, this is that kid, and this is this is Impulse. That same kind of, where am I going? Okay, think, act before he thinks sometimes, and gets in a little bit of trouble. We saw that in the first issue where he runs into a burning building and forgets about the backdraft. Boom, blows up the building. I thought that was just a great way to introduce Bart and just the way he kind of deals with things. And here we're seeing him deal with the consequences of that. We're seeing him understand and start to, hero time. And first thing he does, as I said, as he's escaping, he tries to help other people.
I love that you're redoing your entire review.
I know, I'm sorry.
Did you like it?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell, but I really did like this book.
That's really funny.
This book is now in my top 5.
It's like, and at the beginning of this, whatever. Chunk.
I told you I wanted to talk Teen Titans.
That was so funny. Because I get diarrhea in the mouth all the time. I'm not arguing with you. That was really funny. Yeah. Let's move on to Supergirl.
Oh, no, you don't.
And our next title will be Supergirl. The writers are Michael Green and Mike Johnson. The penciler is Mohammed Assar. The inker is Dan Green. Colors, Dave McCraig. Letterer, John J. Hill. Covers by Assar and McCraig. And editor is Will Moss. And the group editor is Matt Idelson.
I love that you took an R out of the penciler's name and put it on Dave McCaig's.
Oops, I apologize. Sorry about that.
Because you called him Dave McCraig.
It is Dave McCaig.
No, you said McCraig. Yeah, I wasn't kidding.
I made a mistake.
I thought it was hysterical because you took, obviously we were talking before this about how do we pronounce the penciler's last name, and we apologize for any name butchery, but we were talking about that R beforehand, and you said, I think it might be a sound R. I'm like, I don't think so. But the hysterical part was when you went through and did the creative team, you took the R off of his last name and plopped it on the colorist's name. And I was like watching through, I'm like, did he just do that? Well, you know what? At least you used all the letters.
Yes. I get, some points for that.
But apologies to the creative team, honestly, because I would have done the same kind of butchery, except I would have gotten McCaig's name right. Only because I love this book. This was another one. We talked about the New 52 and did kind of a preview of it, and I was like so worried. I'm like, are we going to this kind of solemn and like hard to deal with Supergirl again? Because I liked it the first time through because there was an evolution, but I don't necessarily want to read that again. I have no problem with her having trouble fitting in to the DC universe, as far as, she's landing for the first time and we're seeing her as a fish out of water, and her journey should be different than Kal-El's. This is working right out of the starting gate with that opening page where we see her holding Kal for the first time and how this was an important moment for her, but also setting a time placement. This is one of her last memories. And now she's seeing this grown man before her who is speaking Kryptonian. I loved the comment on the dialect, that he's like reading it from a textbook versus it's conversational, which would fit, because when would Clark have a chance to converse this way? I loved this book. It's a character who's really growing on me again, because I was a big fan of Supergirl, thanks to Jamal Igle and the run with Sterling Gates. I thought the two of them just really hit a home run and made me a believer in the character in a way that I don't think I've been since my childhood. And now that they've brought me back into like the Supergirl fold, this is somebody I'm like, I want to like this. And this creative team really gets what makes an interesting Supergirl story, and without making her somebody who's unlikable.
Oh, definitely. And it's interesting is one of the things with me and Supergirl is I have a much more limited experience of Supergirl than you do. So for me, when I went into this, I was like, I was really digging where it went to. I absolutely loved just the character growth that we saw. So to go back to the beginning again, I was very nervous about this. This is, because I was like, I was comfortable with the character. Now I got to reintroduce the character to me. What's this going to be like? And this was one of those titles when they were doing it. I was like, man, because there's been so many neat stories I've read already with her dealing with the Titans, with her dealing just with her life and just, the various goofinesses that it takes to be the cousin of Superman. So going back to ground one, just that very first beginning, I was worried about it, but the way they're covering this, the way they're introducing it, this has been a really cool a really cool experience, and I'm loving seeing her and Clark deal with each other. We talked earlier about just the reality of this universe and how it feels very realistic. For me, this is an absolute perfect reaction she would have. 3 days ago, she was holding this baby. Now he's standing as an adult, older than her, in front of her. That is something that would just freak her out.
She's also being exposed to the powers as an adult. Different than his experience. He grew up gradually experiencing this. Mm-hmm. So for her, she's being thrust into this as an adult who's seeing, there would be a fear. What's happening to me? My eyes, my ears. Is this a disease? She saw what her hands did the last issue. This is a girl who's going through some changes that, as a kid, you're experiencing gradually. You're not knowing anything different. This is kind of your world. He's got a different experience with the powers.
Oh, definitely. You think about just the cool stories that we had from Smallville, where when a new power would pop up, he'd have to focus and deal with it. She's getting it all thrown at her at once. And when the X-ray vision first kicks in, I love just the look of terror. I'm just like, what's going on here? I'm seeing bones, and just that, that's that complete shock and awe. When the hearing and the supervision kicks in, yeah, that'd be freaky. But being able to see through things, that would be just beyond, normal.
She saw her X-ray vision last issue, right? When she saw her hands for the first time, it was starting to kick in, like what she saw with Clark's face right here, where she starts to see the veins and things in his face. Mm-hmm. That was stuff she saw in the first issue, and now she's seeing more clearly through things with her X-ray vision.
Yeah, I tell you, it's a cool exploration. I like the fact that she's reacting with thinking he's not who he says he is.
Yeah.
And she's lashing out and she's hitting him. She doesn't really know her own strength, so she's knocking him through, to next, through, countries, through the Great Wall of China multiple times. It was just, again, it's someone with this power who doesn't know how to handle it, who doesn't know how to deal with it. We talked earlier about would we want to have the powers. I guarantee you this is not how I'd want to have the powers with all of them thrown at me at once. And I like seeing her reaction. I like seeing how they're dealing with this.
I don't know. I wouldn't mind waking up tomorrow and also I got X-ray vision, heat vision. I can fly. I can throw my brother through trees.
You burn your house down. As soon as that heat
That's a
vision,
good point.
I think that would be the biggest one. That would be the hardest one to control. If all of a sudden, if you're staring at something and lasers come flying out of your eyes,
But I got super strength.
House.
I could rebuild my house in record time.
True, you can make it better, faster, stronger.
That's right.
Can rebuild.
I could have a bionic house.
Da-da-da-da. Okay.
No, I would take out that little thing and make my fortress right there. What is this crystal thing on the corner? Do you need a permit for that? How does that work? Does that count as new construction if you build your crystal Fortress of Solitude over your current house?
Yeah, I would think you would have to get the inspectors out there.
Or is that a home improvement?
See, that I would call that original, brand new construction, not a home improvement.
Even if you build it on the same, what if I drop it in my basement?
Well, so that now you're talking more of a bat cave. Now the bat cave.
No. I'm dropping it in my basement, and then we know what happens. That thing thrusts outward.
Okay.
It would take the place. It would come from the outside, from the inside out. Your house has outgrown itself.
Yeah, I don't think you could buy. I don't think they'd buy that.
I'd have to really sell it.
Yeah, that'd be a tough sell.
What if I did what if I took a video? Because I really would if this happened to me, I'm less concerned about the superpowers and the blast in my windows and the doors in the house with my heat vision, stuff like that. It's like, how could I build my fortress locally? That's really would be my issue. And I think, permit-wise, I think as long as I can show, if I videotape it, if I have the foresight to do that, if I videotape it, I think as long as I can prove it came from the inside out, what do they do?
I got nothing on that one. I'm sitting there going, are we really having a conversation about zoning for the Fortress of Solitude?
Well, because it would be an issue. You can't just build random. I can't go to the corner park, and it's all well and fine to go to the North Pole and throw that thing into the water and let it, build up and do all that stuff. That's why he did that, because of zoning. I'm trying to get around the zoning issue. I want to be local. It's all well and fine that I can fly to my fortress in the North Pole and then fly back. But, if I want friends over to my fortress, that's cold. You know what I'm saying? I want it to be local.
Yeah.
What if we want to record?
Well, they got the internet up in the North Pole.
Yeah, but, again, what if we're doing an interview and you need to be here?
Well, then you'd fly down, pick me up, and bring me back. It'd be the super, you'd do the super messenger service.
See, that's just, I'm not carrying you anywhere.
Please, you got the strength of Superman. You can carry me up.
No, it's not, I'm not, this isn't a weight thing, dude. I didn't mean it that way. I just meant I'm not carrying you around like you're Lois Lane. It's just not happening. If you want to, sit in a wagon and stuff and I pull that thing like a sled, all right, maybe we'll talk about that.
Hold on, yeah. We'll get a Santa sleigh, and I'll hook you up and yeah, I'm Norge.
Now, see, then I take you up to the stratosphere and I'd drop you. Do the sensei bounce. I don't know. So I'm concerned about zoning, but let's move on from zoning, seeing as you don't have an answer for me on zoning. I like that this consistent mistrust of the world leads to many different government and world agencies tracking down aliens like her. They tracked her coming in. They know that they've seen this kind of stuff before. How can they how can they get to this in time? They didn't account for Superman being there, when that happened. At least not initially. But they're not letting that throw him and sway him. Sway them, I should say, as they're trying to go through their plan. I really liked, this whole aspect of the two of them having their first physical encounter, him trying to find ways to put distance between the two of them, and maybe reason with her.
That was his whole main MO that he was going for, and I liked how he finally got through to her.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not going to fight you anymore. We're doing too much damage to the people around. And then she's like, oh, God, I didn't, and it was a cool moment between them where she has that, I didn't realize what I was doing, because she doesn't know her own strength. She doesn't know that everybody around them doesn't have the same powers. Her, everybody on Earth could have these superhuman powers, and she doesn't realize that.
So she's a danger to other people.
Yeah, and it's something she's just now learning and she's just now seeing. And I especially liked that it was the fact that it was the mother holding that baby that really locked it into her. She's like, oh no. When she sees that, the mother with the child, it's, again, a connection to her when she was holding young Kal-El.
Well, you know what, though? Let's not ignore the fight in when he throws her into the sky. Just her initial shock and awe. But then, when he catches her, kicking him away and then going to the eye. I've got to look for any kind of advantage. And, she's looking to regroup to kind of, gather her mind at this point. And he's consistently worried about what kind of damage she's going to cause. I love that. And you're right. Then we get to that cool segment. That's not a mother holding a child. That's a father.
A father holding a child?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that is. Okay. Oops.
But same kind of idea. I love seeing the two of them kind of fly away together, though, and I get this impression that this is not going to be an unlikable Supergirl.
No, and it is going to be a Supergirl lost in the world. I don't see the whiny Supergirl coming back anytime soon. I think this is going to be one of those kind of stories where it's exploring humanity from the outside. I'm kind of curious to see her interactions and dealings with other heroes, and just especially, eventually the meeting up between her and Connor, because that's going to be an interesting kind of a moment, because with Connor, with his, non-human upbringing, her with her pure Kryptonian upbringing, the real mesh of that.
So let me ask you this. Who do you think that shadowy figure is? Is that Glenn Morgan? Is that Luthor?
My first thought was Luthor.
Yeah, same with me. I don't know. I could see it possibly being Glenn Morgan. I'm with you. I'm leaning more towards Luthor.
My main reason for being Luthor is because they really made sure they have the shadow covering the head.
Why hide it?
I don't know.
See, that part leads me to believe that we might have a surprise there. But what do you think that crystal is? They've taken the crystal from the pod. What is it?
Well, if you think, the Kryptonian technology and all that, it's the crystal base. So that could be all the knowledge of Krypton that was sent with her in her pod, in her escape pod.
Yeah.
Because he's even saying that, well, this is all the knowledge we'll ever need. So right in there, that's everything. Because when I first thought, I was wondering if they're introducing a form of red kryptonite, but I'm like, no, it's not kryptonite. That's a crystal. That's a crystal. That's not the kryptonite. That's, probably her supercomputer or her knowledge or some, that kind of, deal.
Yeah, I wonder if that'll start giving an edge. See, there's a part of me that wonders if that's Glenn Morgan or somebody else. I don't know. I'm so interested. Like, I like the mystery. I don't think it's as cut and dry as necessarily being Luthor. It could be Luthor. I don't know. I think that was kept secret on purpose.
Yeah.
There's a swerve coming.
Well, the swerve would be if it was anybody other than Luthor.
Right.
An introduction to a new villain, introduction to Supergirl's villain. I don't know who it would be, really.
I don't either. 2 issues in, I like this. I'm into the character. I'm starting to see somebody, like, I'm sure there's going to be a negative reaction to finding out Krypton's been destroyed. But, is she going to reject Clark on that? Or is this going to bring them closer together? What's going to happen there? I don't know.
Well, you think about it, she's still trying to figure if she trusts this guy.
Yeah.
So here's this person she doesn't know if she can completely trust, who's telling her that her family, everything's destroyed. So I'm thinking this is going to be one of those. I don't think we're going to go back to punches being thrown, but she's definitely not going to open up her arms and say, "Oh, we're all that's left, cousin, yay!" There's still going to be difficulties between them until she can 100% prove to herself that this is Kal-El, that this is her family.
Yeah. I can't argue with that.
Now, I wonder if this Clark has the Fortress of Solitude.
We don't know that yet, do we?
No, we don't. And I'm wondering, I'm wondering if that red crystal is what will create a Fortress of Solitude. Maybe this universe, this is how the fortress gets created from Kara, not from Kal-El.
Huh. Maybe.
Now, with costume changes, what did you think of the changes to hers?
There's elements I like. There's elements I'm not sure about yet. It's definitely a little bit more techy than her previous outfit. I don't dislike it. I don't know that I'm in love with it yet. But, we're only 2 issues in with this costume, so I got to say this. I like it a lot more now than I did originally when I saw it previewed. I don't know if I like the way the whole, waist down works, that red and yellow.
Yeah.
But I this might be just me getting used to the new style. I don't know. So I don't hate it. I'm not sold yet. I kind of like the new boot design.
Yeah. With the overstrap and the underboots and all that, yeah.
I like the cape. Most of it I like. I actually like the differentiation between the symbols. So there's a lot of it I like. I'm just not I'm not 100% sold yet, but I got to give it some time. It's kind of one of those things where I don't hate it though. I don't.
Yeah, it's funny. The Clark suit I immediately jumped on. I was like, hey, this is cool. I like this. And with her, that same thing. The waist area is the only thing I'm like, I don't know. I got to spend a little bit more time with it.
Yeah, I think that's really what it is. It's not, I don't know that it's bad. Like, okay, here's a great example. The segment where the two of them are flying up together, it's called Earth. The planet's yellow sun gives you and me abilities beyond those of normal Kryptonians. If it is true that you are from Krypton, you'll remember the World Killers, weapons of such. That whole sequence right there, I should stop myself. I've established where we're at. Like, I love the shot of the two of them there. Like, so, I mean, and then that whole page, there's something about it. Like, the costume works for me there. Everything's working. So this is a great example of, like, that's a majestic, beautiful Superman, Supergirl moment. I love that they're in different positions. You know, like, I loved him kind of, like, flying up with that, and she's got more of the kind of free-floating kind of look to it. Just everything about that looks good. There's something about it. That whole page really, like, that was the one where it really hit for me that I'm like, okay, I like this.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure, but the costume's growing on me. So, yeah, I think it's all. I almost want to take away the I don't hate it because that puts a negative connotation on it. I'm not 100% on it yet. I just need time. I think. I don't know. We'll see. I think the more I like the character, the more I like the costume. I think that's what's driving it. I really do think that's the case. It seems simplistic, but it really is the case.
Yeah, this is a fun story. This is, you know, it's not at the top of my stack yet, but it is definitely a solid position.
Yeah, it's good Supergirl right now. I'm with you. It's not a top of the stack yet, but I'm intrigued. I'm interested. You can't ask for more than that.
You won't get away from me this time, Buster.
Our next episode, Jim, will definitely be talking The Flash. We wanted to have The Flash on this episode, but to get to that, so Flash number 2 will definitely be a part of that. But we'll also have a whole bunch of other New 52 comics that we're going to be discussing as well as we continue our exploration of the New 52. Our sponsors for this episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Remember, over DCBService.com, The Flash Omnibus by Jeff Johns, Volume 2. Regularly $75, 40% off, only $45, and you can still get Volume 1 at the same price. Remember, they are also your digital source to do all your digital shopping right from the handy-dandy link straight on their website. Over at InStockTrades.com, Absolute Sandman Hardcover, Volume 5. Regularly $99.99, 40% off, only $59.99. Orders of $50 more give you free shipping. And there's lots of tremendous deals over on their site. Remember, they are your source for hardcovers and trade paperbacks. I want to thank both of those sites for continuing to support our show. Our show voicemail line, 1-440-388-4434, or Dr. Norge on Skype. Our next episode, we will continue with the many voicemails we've been getting in. Please keep them coming. We like having you a part of the show. And we will see everyone next week.
Bye.
Flying through space and time, 1,000 different lifetimes. Faded for love and loss and incredibly clear sightlines. Swinging your mace around, such a practical outlook. Helping the JSA and occasionally supporting your own book. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see. Hawkman, your plan and what you do to me. Villains are closing in, be they Thanin Guard or Egyptian. Working so hard to thwart you and Hawkgirl's mission. The odds are not on your side, and danger seems to stack up. Things would be so much easier if you would just call for backup. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see your plan. What you do to me, Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see, Hawkman, your plan, what you do to me, Hawkman, talking about Hawkman.